Hello, and welcome to Open Hearts Book Club. I'm your co-host, Steph.
And I'm your other co-host, Sadi. And this month, for our extra episode of the month, we read The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie Oh.
Sure did.
we
Sure did.
we sure did read this book, and wasn't it a book?
It was a book and I read it.
God dang, it was a doozy.
This is true.
Oh my god. Oh, before we get into kind of like the summary, because the way that we format it basically is for our review episodes, we have one of us do a summary. We do a little bit about a spoiler-free summary, a little bit about what we thought about the book, and then we get into the synopsis of it. But before we get into it, this is the first time we're going to have to do this. If you read this book and you really loved this book, we might be saying some very critical things about a novel that you might really love.
Yeah.
Art is subject to criticism. I think it's very fair. But at the same time, sometimes when you really love something, it's hard to hear potentially negative things about it. I've done it before where I've seen people have negative review for books that I really love, and I'll just sort of skip past it. So if you don't think you can handle that,
totally fair.
Totally fair. But we are probably
I'm gonna rip into this.
Yeah, we are. So for those who are unfamiliar with The Girl Beneath the Sea, what's this book about, Steph?
Yeah, so this is our spoiler-free summary, so don't be worried if you haven't read the book and you do want to. I won't give anything away that the book cover, like back book cover, has not already given away.
Yeah.
But essentially this book follows our female lead, who is Mina, and she lives in a seaside village that has been plagued by horrible, horrible storms. Talking like flooding the fields so the crops are ruined, livestock's getting washed away, people are getting washed away. And in order to remedy this, because the people are assuming that this is the sea god cursing them, and that's why this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to remedy this, every year they sacrifice a bride to the sea god, and that seems to have been working. They've been doing it for the last, century or so. I
want to say 100 years.
Yes, yeah. So they've recognized that this does work, and when the storms start coming back at that year point, they then sacrifice their next sea god bride. So this year, a girl named Shim Chung is supposed to get sacrificed to the sea to be the sea god's bride. The problem with this is that Mina's brother June is like in love with this girl. And in order to save her brother, who Mina cares very, very deeply about, she decides she's going to sacrifice herself and become the sea god's bride this year so that, Shim Chung doesn't have to be sacrificed. So she does just that. And when she finds the sea god, she finds that he is in an enchanted sleep. And as she sees that he's in enchanted sleep, she also runs into a little ragtag gang of boys that
the rowdy rough boys.
And they have their initial little scuffle with one another, but eventually they end up deciding that they're gonna try to work together to get the sea god to be broken out of this curse, be broken out of this enchanted sleep, and our adventure goes on from there. And that's the spoiler-free summary. If you don't want anything spoiled, now is probably a good point to stop the episode.
Yeah, and by stop the episode, I mean pause it
and come back.
Read the book and then come back and listen to us talk about this book, especially if maybe you had some qualms with the way that we did.
Yeah.
Well, the reason we had picked this book initially is because we just finished watching K-pop Demon Hunters, and you found like a list basically of books that were recommended based on that. And
which
I would say this book is more closer to Spirited Away.
1,000%.
If you loved Spirited Away, this might be a more like whimsical story for you to have. I think the closest thing to K-pop Demon Hunters is the fact that it's just Korean.
Yeah, and there's demons, I guess. The one character, the fox goddess, is a demon.
There's one irrelevant demon, but when you say like, oh, if you loved K-pop Demon Hunters, you're gonna love this book. Right. I'm assuming hot demons.
Yeah. No.
Oh, well. No, not at all. But yeah, we can talk about our thoughts.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Sure. So we usually rate our books out of 5. Yeah. I gave this book a 2.5 out of 5. It wasn't like the worst book I've ever read in the entirety of books I've ever read. However, it didn't blow me away. I think my one like piece of feedback that I had that was positive was just like there was a lot of lore, like there's a lot of different gods, goddesses, spirits, beasts of myth, and like it tackled a lot in that way. And I feel like you know, it was fun having all these different things. And for that just part in particular, I feel like it wasn't trying to do too much. Like
Mhm.
it like made sense. It was interesting. I was interested in the different gods and goddesses. I was interested in the different like beasts of myth and their like kind of like fights with one another even. And interested in just like the idea of like this sort of alternate afterlife that they had.
Yeah.
I think all of that was really, really interesting. That's kind of where my praise stops. I so obviously, like we talked a little bit about in Lady for a Duke, like when it's a romance book, the romance is the most important part of the book, at least for me, for you.
Yeah.
Like if the romance isn't good in a romance book, like what are we doing?
This is a
And
romance book club.
yes, exactly, exactly. And I did not buy the romance between Mina and Shin at all. I didn't understand what drew them to one another. We got barely anything out of Shin's personality other than like he wasn't like a bad dude. But I like feel like I know hardly anything about that man.
Yeah.
And it just didn't seem like I was waiting for things to like ramp up. Of like I was really excited when they had like the string of fate tied to each other of like, oh, like how is this going to progress? But I feel like once that happened, it didn't move forward in any sort of meaningful way. Like there was no building of the relationship. It's just sort of like this happened. They had like a couple of moments of like seeing each other be like kind of generally good people. And like that was enough. And then they were in love, I guess. And that's generally the critique I have about like kind of all of the relationships, like the friendships and stuff she also forged within the spirit world. I'm like, again, they're like, why are you guys friends? Is it just because like you're hanging around each other a lot? Like I don't understand like where this all came from.
No, I completely agree.
And for me, like Mina and Shin's romance only came alive towards like the very end of the book when they were separated. That was like the most where I was like, oh, like I feel the tension, I feel the like the anguish and whatever. And like outside of that, I was like, okay, this could have been any other.
She's literally just like every other. Yeah, no, 100%, dude. I also gave this a 2.5. I felt like it was a kind of a below average, which is crazy because a lot of the review sites that I've seen about this book
rated so
high. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, because this is an own voices story. The author Axie Oh is Korean American, and so they're writing a story about Korean folktale. I am such a fucking sucker for folktales, like any sort of like myth, legend, mythology. That is my like catnip. I will pick up a book like that. Totally. And this fell so flat for me.
Yeah,
it felt like the author had a lot of fun material to work with.
Yeah,
but the actual things that I liked about it were not because the author wrote such an incredible world. It's because Korean mythology is cool. This already existed and I'm already into it.
Yeah.
So the things that I went, well, I'd love to hear more about like the various gods and goddesses. And I'd love to hear more about some of these old folk tales that are happening throughout the story. I don't necessarily know if I would give that to Axie Oh.
Right, exactly.
I think that's just, I enjoy these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And for me, the reason that like Shin and Mina's romance was so lackluster, and the biggest reason why this story was such a disappointment to me, was the pacing. The pacing of this book was insane. Like it was such whiplash. They would go from one place and then within 2 sentences, they would be in another spot in the story.
Yeah.
And then the next chapter, they'd be in a completely different place. And I want to say that if this was an anime, if this was a movie, like an animated movie, I can see how this would translate a lot better. Because if we're making the Spirited Away comparison, there is so much whimsy and mystical, magical. We're gonna get copyrighted. No Benson booting on the podcast. But like every time I was reading this book, I could tell that the author had a cool scene in their head.
Yeah.
And they really wanted to write this cool scene. Couldn't figure out a way to tie it overall into a plot. So it's just like we get a detour for a cool scene. And something like that kind of works in a visual medium.
Yeah.
Because we can sort of project our own thoughts and emotions, and like the beauty of the animation does a lot of the emotional weight, and it carries a lot of that. Whereas in a book, it's almost like, what are we doing here? We spend so much time doing such erroneous nonsense.
Yeah.
At the disservice of Shin and
Mina. Yeah. Give me more about them.
It's like when our complaint for A Lady for a Duke was also like, hey, we're getting distracted by somebody else's subplot. And whereas a lady for a duke, they still had a great romance. With this one, it was like, we're getting distracted by a bunch of other crap, and we're not getting enough time with just these two.
Yeah.
Or if we were getting distracted with a bunch of other crap, it should have just been with these two. There were so many other tertiary characters who were just hanging along.
I feel like she was away from Shin more of the book than she was with him too, which is part of the problem.
Part of the problem. And the author was like, well, I really want her to have a good relationship with like the two other random that were there too. And this is gender neutral. These are two men we're talking about. So like random people there too. And then like these random, and we'll get into it, but there was a lot of extra side characters that did nothing. Like sometimes you have side characters that are just there in service of your protagonist.
Yeah.
These weren't even that. They were just...
Yeah. And I felt let down by that too, because I was like, oh, I'm interested in these side characters. I like the idea that there are previous sea gods' brides that are down there doing something different.
Yeah.
Or like there's other people that she knew that had died in the sea that were down there. Like I really was interested in that. But then it was just like, and they're there. And anyway, it's like, okay, why are we even including this then?
Oh, good God. Like Hyeri, we'll get into her, but she, to me, I was like, I'm more interested in this other rando's story than our protagonist. And that feels really bad.
Totally.
That feels wrong, actually.
I also think, though, and this is part of the reason my rating was so low. Mina's got no haters, I'm dead. Okay? She was like so Mary Sue. Like the biggest thing she did was extend compassion and basic advice to people, and everyone loved her for it. And like we had talked about it a little bit before of just like, you're telling me there's a confirmed like 98 other brides down here and none of them have managed to do what Mina has done? Come on.
Not a single one has followed, even because she's not doing anything extraordinary.
No.
Not to be a jerk about it, but like sometimes when you have stories like this where it's like Bluebird tale, right? Like Bluebird. No, it's like the story of a man who like marries a woman and invites her to his house, and she has access to every room except for one.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's like, what then about this girl is different than all the other ones? And like, that's a horror story.
Yeah.
But it's like that similar vein of like, there have been 98 other brides. What about this one makes her different? And honestly, nothing.
Yeah.
I get like, because also I feel like the author, we'll talk about this when we get into the spoiler-filled synopsis, but this is actually based on a real Korean folktale. I looked it up. It's called The Tale of Shimchung. It's said in like this dramatic sort of spoken word poetry music way. Like that's the performance of it. I forget what it's called. I apologize. It's based on a true Korean folktale with the main character Shimchung. And I think this author sincerely wanted to take elements from it, but not actually copy that. And so like Mina had to be not the main character of that story, just another, it was a really confusing choice to make. And I lost myself in the plot of what I was trying to talk about. Anyways.
Should we get into the synopsis or the spoiler filled?
Yeah, let's get into it. So like I said, this was based on an actual Korean folktale. That folktale does show up later in the story, so I'm not gonna say it now. When we get there, we'll explain it then. But yeah, so the story starts, and it starts off so strong. You had already finished the book before I got like halfway through it, and your opinion on it was so like not the greatest. And I went, wow, that's crazy, because it starts off wonderfully. She's racing through the forest. Hard open, racing through the forest, storms all around her. Mina, our main character, is like trying to get through the forest. And the author makes this choice to tell so much of the story in immediate backstory. And that off the bat has already pissed me off. But like, I don't know that yet. So at first, we get a sort of a backstory. Like as Mina's racing through the forest, she's telling us, the reader, about the legend of the sea god. That many, many years ago, the sea god became angry with his people, and every year these insane storms rage, like you had said, decimating fields, drowning people in the sea. And the only way to quench his anger is to sacrifice an 18 plus, they do say this, they're like 18-year-old and above, 18 plus girl to the sea god. And Mina makes a comment, it's not right here, but she does make a comment eventually that they do kind of believe that they just die. They think these women are being thrown out into the sea and drowning, but it works. Very few people actually believe that this girl goes on to become the sea god's bride. And she also mentions that the only way the storms will forever end is if the true sea god's bride is sacrificed to the sea god. So they're throwing these women in. It's sort of like a temporary solution. But when like the right girl shows up, that'll be kind of the solution here.
Yeah. And they really think that Shim Chung is going to be the true sea god's bride.
True sea god's bride. So there's a young girl named Shim Chung. She's not originally from their village, but around like 12 years old, she is sent over because she's extraordinarily beautiful. Her and her dad find their way to the village, and she's already assigned like, this is the sea god's bride. She's 12 years old, but in 6 years, she's going to get even hotter. Which is,
we assume,
such a gross thing to say to a 12-year-old, but I get it. This is like set in ancient times. And she was sent to this village because it's the village closest to the sea. They're a seaside village. And Shim Chung is this year's sea god's bride. The problem, however, is the fact that Mina's brother is in love with Shim Chung. And Mina has known this since like Shim Chung has arrived in their little village.
Oh yeah.
Everyone else was kind of afraid to interact with her because they knew she was destined to die. But June, her brother, from the get-go is like, insta love. She's the one for me. It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
So Mina knows because she saw him. June has left their home and like basically has gone to chase after Shim Chung because this is the day in which she's going to be sacrificed.
Which is like a huge no-no. Like no one else is supposed to go with her other than the like appointed people who are supposed to go with her.
Sorry, I've got the plot here in this little fun little clipboard. I'm sure you saw Steph with it last time. But yeah, there's 3 rules. The rules are no warriors, which June is a warrior. No women.
Other than the sea god's bride.
Other than the sea god's bride. I don't know why, but yeah, sure. No women and
I
no
think for
weapons.
this reason.
Probably.
So that they don't like
do a switcheroo.
Yeah.
A little swapperoo. And no weapons. So, you know, by the time we get all this information, Mina has made it to the sea. She sees like the boat out a little further away. She jumps into the ocean. She doesn't really have a full game plan. We know what's going to happen because this is a story.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what are we doing here? But
she's nearly drowning as she's swimming to the boat.
This is a lot of like, a wonderful characterization of Mina is everything will just work out for her.
Yeah. Hey, and it did. So
yeah, the question of why, nothing, whatever. Yeah, so Mina jumps into the ocean. She's swimming after her brother. Again, incredible action scene. Her brother gets her from out of the waves. He's like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be on this boat. You've broken one of the rules. And she's like, dude, we've already done that.
Yeah.
Also, we find out Mina has a weapon on her. It's her grandmother's knife. Is this relevant?
Great grandmother's wife? Knife.
Wife. Her great grandmother's knife that was given to her by her grandmother. And I guess they don't go to detail, but I guess her grandmother also sort of taught her how to fight with it. Because it comes up sometimes. Here's something that happens throughout the book, and I'm not going to mention it every time it happens because if I took a shot for every time it happens, I'm done. I'm done. But she loves to be like, and my grandmother told me this, and my grandmother said this, and my grandmother explained this. Like, instead of just showing us, this book does a lot of telling through the grandmother.
Yeah. Also, whenever she references the knife, it's always my great-great-grandmother's knife. It's like, we get it. You have a knife on you. It's from your great-great-grandmother. And eventually you can just say, my knife, because we understand who it came from.
It's never just like the god. It's the sea god. It's never, oh, the red string. It's the red string of fate.
Which, it's everything has a proper name.
Everything has a proper name. It's very exhausting as a reader. But fine, whatever. So her great-great-grandmother's knife, she has it on her too. So she's like, we've technically broken all 3 rules.
Yeah.
Now they're on this boat. The waves are really choppy. Shim Chung is there. And Shim Chung is beautiful. Girl, at one point,
terrified.
She's terrified. Mina describes her like she looks as though she's a goddess. She's just beautiful. And it's funny to know that in hindsight that Shim Chung is like the real protagonist of this story.
Yeah.
And this could have been such a beautiful tale of 2 girls who swap their fates. Of like, you were supposed to be the hero and I was supposed to be just some background character, and none of that matters. Actually. No. So Mina's having a lot of revelations on this boat. She's like looking at Shim Chung. She's looking at June, who's looking at Shim Chung. It's a lot of that. It's so much of that. And then from the water rises this big dragon.
Who's looking at Mina? Who's looking at
So Shim Chung is at the top of this boat, the prow of the boat, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And this dragon is like looking. And it's a very serious scene. But a lot of this book is a lot of Mina dithering on about nothing. So yeah. So Shim Chung is facing this dragon. Damn it, because I'm about to be like, the dragon is like glaring down at them.
Yes.
And in a moment of hesitation, this moment of hesitation is so important. Because at first Mina's like, I wonder if Shim Chung's gonna do it, if she's gonna actually sacrifice herself.
Yeah. And
like,
she has a moment, I think, too, of like, oh, do I really want to do this?
Right. And it's almost like Mina has a vague idea of what she's about to do, which we all know what she's about to do.
Yeah.
But she's not fully committed to it until Shim Chung looks away from the dragon and looks at June.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sees like the love in Shim Chung's eyes and the love specifically in June's eyes and like how heartbroken he is in this moment. I think at one point he like tries to go up and stand next to her and protect her.
Yeah.
And Mina goes, okay, that's it. I'm interfering. So she goes up to the dragon and she's saying like, take me instead.
Mm-hmm.
Take me as a sea god's bride. I will do it. I think she like cuts her hand in a show of like sacrifice, which, okay, why?
Why?
Yeah, she slices her hand. She's talking to this dragon and she's saying like, take me instead as a sea god's bride. The dragon tilts its head. It looks at her. She's like, I think this is gonna work for me. Maybe. And then she jumps into the ocean.
Yep.
And there's a second where she's like, I think I'm just gonna drown. And then the story ends. No. She jumps into the water and she's floating through the water. And at one point she's able to breathe underwater and she lands within, I believe she lands within like the sea god city, basically.
Yeah.
The next chapter starts with a memory that Mina has of her grandmother. And we do this so much. It becomes so tiresome.
Yeah.
This author doesn't really want to do a lot of preemptive exposition or preemptive like storytelling here. And what I mean by that is we'll get into this later, but if you want to lead our readers to a conclusion, you should sprinkle a little bit of hints here and there.
Yeah.
But instead of doing that, she just goes, well, my grandmother told me this story. And so we're gonna go with that story. I'm gonna tell you the whole story right now, and then you'll see exactly where we're about to go with this.
Yep.
Give me a word that rhymes with wrinkle. Sprinkle.
So yeah, we have a fun little flashback of Mina's grandmother who loves to tell stories, taking her to the beach, I believe right before these storms are about to happen, just like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And she's telling her the story of the sea god, basically saying that these storms are happening because the sea god is angry and only the true bride of the sea god can quench his anger, which we sort of knew about that. But we're getting sort of an explanation about what the myth system in this world is.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of little gods. Every little spirit has a god to it. From like a polytheistic religion, you know, that's something that makes sense and is very comfortable for me specifically. But it's a very, you know, common thing in a lot of Asian religions.
Yeah.
So many gods. And Mina's like falling through the spirit world as she's remembering this memory of her grandmother explaining that the sea god is like the god of all gods, though. While there are many gods, he is the king of gods. He's sort of all of their rulers.
Yeah.
And so all of them kind of fall in line under him.
Because I think she like almost explained it in the sense of just like because the sea is so vast and he is like most like very powerful or whatever.
Right. Hold on. Just want to make sure. Yeah, so but that's exactly what it is. It's like, why the sea god then? And it's just, because the sea is huge and important, and that makes him an important, and he's an important person, so that makes the sea important. And she's like, my grandma loves to say things in roundabout ways. Like, okay, lady. And I get it. We're trying to do the whimsical grandma thing. If you're familiar with Moana, they have that too. But it works a little bit better used very sparingly.
Yeah.
And I feel like every chapter we get a story from her grandma, or a story about her grandma, or a story about her older brother, or a story about her brother.
Yeah.
Well, my brother used to... And so there are many of those moments that I've left out because I cannot get into each time her brother taught her how to hold a knife, or each time her... Like, I'm dead serious. Though. It's constantly happening. So she's falling through the spirit world, and she lands in the world itself. She's like about to cross a bridge. She's like on a street, basically.
In the sea god city.
In the sea god city.
Yeah.
She doesn't know that yet, though. So right now, she looks at her hand. There's like a huge mist around her. She looks at her hand, and on her hand is the red string. And if you're familiar with like Chinese mythology, the red string of fate ties you to a person that you're fated to. In this story, at least, it's tying you to your soulmate or your true love or something like that.
Yeah, I think they explain it later on that it's just like you have like it might not necessarily be love, but you have some sort of sense of duty to this person.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And she immediately knows what this is.
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, obviously this is the red string of fate, but they say that in the human world, no one can see it. So I guess maybe down here in the spirit world, we can now see this. And she's walking, you know, she's letting the red string of fate guide her to what her destination is. She's walking through the She gets to the sea god's palace. This is when I talk about pacing. There's a lot of times where it feels as though I'm going to be saying something very, very like as if I'm forgetting stuff. Like, and now she's at the sea god's palace, and now she's somewhere else.
It's like, no, this is
one of many visits to the sea god's palace. And by palace, if you're not familiar with like Korean architecture, it's a big, like you're entering through these large red gates, you're going into the palace, but there's like courtyards and pavilions and many different little indoor outdoor areas throughout it. So this palace is very expansive. She's going through the palace. We have another dumb memory about wind chimes. I guess there's wind chimes in one of the courtyards of this palace. One of them she made herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she, as we're going through it, she's like, I distinctly know this sound. I know it because I made the wind chime. And I got so angry, so I threw it into the ocean. There's a theme here that we're going to touch up a lot throughout this novel that I personally am having a hard time reconciling, but it is with childbirth. Specifically, and the trauma of losing a child.
Yeah.
Because she made this wind chime for her niece, her older brother, and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But that daughter died in childbirth.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, she felt as if like the gods abandoned her, and she threw this chime into the water. And now it's here.
Got angry and
angry. And this is going to come up a lot. And I would love to hear your thoughts about this motif that is going throughout the story, because it doesn't feel like it ties into anything.
Yeah. I just like, I don't know. Certain parts of it was just kind of like, I was like, okay, you threw that into the sea. It almost was just like, it wasn't an offering, but because it has fallen into the sea, it feels like that's why it's here, is like what immediately I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And there were other parts too. Like, I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about it now, but like with the crib or whatever, that like June had carved like a crib for the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And like, obviously once the baby passed, like, I can't recall if it was like I think he like made it as an offering then or something.
Mm-hmm.
And like it ended up like going down this river into,
she sees it later in the spirit realm and like the river of souls.
But I agree, it's like for me it was just like, okay, so we're just like talking about this because this is something that like happened to your family. But yeah, there is a lot of things about like specifically with like children and childbirth that I was like, I don't really understand why,
right,
what's happening.
And I want to touch upon it now because we'll see it throughout the novel. So like just pointing it out, there are a lot of instances of like anger with the gods, specifically gods that have to do with children.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so she sees this wind chime. She goes past it. This is another thing too. It's like, is every piece of shit that gets thrown into the ocean, like where does that go? And I do want to address this later because they have an argument about like what are the gods' responsibilities.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she made this wind chime. She sees a mural of like a dragon chasing a pearl.
Mm-hmm.
In one of her flashbacks with her grandmother. Her grandmother had sung a song about a dragon chasing a pearl, and when you find a dragon's pearl, you get to get a wish.
Yep.
And that's an important part of the myth of this story, this fantasy novel. And then in front of this mural, the sea god is just like sleeping. We don't know that yet. He's like sitting on his throne like this. And I believe he's got like a crown on his head.
Yeah. There's some indication that like this is in fact like the sea god.
Right. There's something so regal about him. He's beautiful. And in that instant, her like interest and curiosity turns immediately into anger. She's like, I hate you. You don't do anything for my people. You are a terrible, terrible guy.
Yeah.
What is the point in you being angry? I'm another one of your brides. And she's got her little knife. She pulls it out. She goes up to him. And right as she's about to like not actually cut him, but like she gets really close. And when she's really thinking about her anger, she looks at him and he's sleeping. And she realizes he's just a boy about her age. She's 16. She's younger than most brides.
Yeah.
Yikes. But she's like, yeah, he's a boy no older than me. And he's fast asleep.
Yeah. And seems to be having some sort of like nightmare because he's like kind of like groaning and like flinching almost.
I'm just gonna keep this on my lap. You're
Yeah.
right. This
Yeah.
is a better thing. I was like
Mhm.
I was trying to be cooler than you. To not have it. No, baby. So the sea god doesn't sleep in front of her.
Hello.
And her grandma, I guess, at one point sang the song about the dragon chasing the pearl. So Mina sings that song now. And then she goes and she tries to touch the hand of the sea god. Because the red string, she realized, is connected to him. So she's like, well, what if I go and touch his little hand and we put our string together?
Which, like, I guess fair enough, because what else are you going to do? But what if, like, oh, let me touch our hands together, see what happens.
Right, you're not going to slit his throat. You might as well hold his little hand. You're his bride. But before she can even touch him, 3 figures show up.
Oh, sorry, really quick.
Yeah.
Like, want to touch on the fact that she, like, once she realizes he's sleeping and he, like, looks like this, like, boy around her age, she says she has this almost, like, maternal instinct to, like, protect him. And I'm like, girl, you really went from one side to the other of, like, I'm gonna kill him. No, I must protect him.
She does that a lot.
There's no explanation as to why, either. Like, I kind of was like, oh, maybe it has something to do with the red string of fate. Nah.
Back to the whole, like, this would be translated so much better in an animated medium. In why can't I think of the with Ashitaka and Princess Mononoke.
Oh yeah.
There's that one scene where she, like, has her dagger over him and she's, like, trying to kill him, but she looks into his eyes. He says something like, "You're so beautiful," and it makes her stop.
Yeah.
That scene is kind of like what this author was trying to do, of, like, she is so angry with him and she wants to kill him, but then she looks at him, he's just a boy.
Yeah.
And that makes her stop. But that doesn't translate very well in this.
No.
It translates extraordinarily poorly in this, because you're just like, why?
Yeah.
It's like, it's one thing if, you know, she understood you're caught up in this the same that way that us young girls are caught up in this.
Yeah.
Or you remind me of the baby my sister was supposed to have.
Or, like, this is a great spot for, like, a grandma flashback of, like, you know, like, my grandma, like, no matter what happened to, like, all of, like, our lives, she never blamed the gods. And, like, that's why I'm starting to feel like a weird, like, my anger is melting away. Like, give us a grandma story where it makes sense.
No, he's just a sleepy guy.
Yeah,
and she doesn't want to hurt the sleepy guy.
Oh my goodness, he's taking a nap.
So yeah, before she has a chance to, like, hold her hand to the sea god, 3, she assumes assassins show up. 3 guys in masks show up and they tell her, stop, don't do that. Stop. Stop it now. And they immediately start negging her. Like, for off the bat, 2 of them are already referring to each other by their first names. So we have Kieran and Namgi. And Kieran and Namgi are both like, are you sure you're the sea god's bride? Because usually there's something extraordinary about them.
Like the other sea god's bride.
They're kind of hot, and you're
And
kind of like, there's nothing special about you.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'm, you know, like, I've chosen to be the sea god's bride. I made the choice. Because they went, if you're really the sea god's bride, like, who would have chosen you? She's like, well, I chose me. I get to decide my fate. And you go, oh my God, this bothers me. Because I was talking to Drew this morning. Drew is my boyfriend. He's wonderful. But I was talking to Drew this morning, and he's like, do you feel, because I was trying to explain, like, why I thought this book was really bad. And he's like, well, do you at least feel like the character had an arc? Like, she had something that she needed to overcome in the beginning, and by the end she had done it. And I went, no. Because it's not as if she's somebody who was really obsessed with fate. And because she swapped her fate with somebody else's.
Yeah.
And at the end, spoiler alert, she does this whole thing about, like, well, it's my fate and I get to choose what I do with it.
Yeah.
But she's saying that from the get-go. She literally, in this scene, is like, I get to choose what I do with my fate.
Yeah. And that's actually kind of a theme in, like, a lot of her things of, like, if she chooses to believe something, then that then becomes her fate, has been kind of like a running theme throughout the book.
Yeah.
Is, like, as soon as she, like, believes in something, that is then her fate.
So it's not as if, like, she grew to become somebody who got to, like, break her own fate or whatever.
Yeah.
She was already that person.
Yeah.
Good God. So yeah, they're clowning on her. There's this, they basically call her a magpie. The magpie theme is really heavy-handed in here for some reason. I am not familiar with the importance or significance of magpies in Korean mythology.
I don't know.
It seems just based on the way the author really puts a lot of importance on magpies, there must be. But yeah, she says her soul would be a magpie, and then they call her a magpie. You know how in romance novels, they always have like some shit nickname that they use for the main girl?
Yeah.
And she's like, don't call me that. That's not my name.
Magpie.
Yeah. So they keep saying like, are you a magpie or are you a bride? There's a phrase or like an idiom, not an idiom, but like it's basically a magpie may dream of being a crane, but never will it become one. So it's an insult to her to be like, you think you're a crane, but you're actually a magpie. And so they're making fun of her because she's like, well, I'll be the one to save the sea god. It's very convoluted because at first she was like, but there's the sea god
has cursed us.
And I need to be the one to convince him to uncurse us. And they reveal that he's under an enchantment. They kind of make fun of her being like, oh, she's the one who thinks that she's gonna be the one to like save him from his curse. And she goes, so he is cursed.
Yeah.
He is cursed. Oh, you said it. You said it, not me. And they're like, and what?
Yeah.
And so what? They're being menacing and they're wearing masks is what I wrote. At this point, like there's a third one that is there. He's the most menacing of the mask wearers. And he's also, I think, the one goading her the most, being like, you really think that you'll be the one, like you humans, you love your myths and your legends. You think that there's such a thing as this myth of the true sea god's bride.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, there's a curse on him. Why wouldn't there be a myth?
Right.
And here's what I want to say one thing. I'm actually going to say a million things. It's not necessarily who the sea god is, it's why. Why does this matter?
Yeah.
In normal romance novels, like I want to use Beauty and the Beast as an example. In Beauty and the Beast's curse is directly tied to his vanity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily true love's kiss will save him.
Yeah.
It's the fact that how could anyone love him for being ugly, because that's how he saw other people.
Right.
So his curse being lifted by true love is specific to the reason that he got cursed.
Yeah.
If the sea god is cursed, I expect then for him, his like reason for the curse lifting, if it has to be a sea god's bride, needs to be relevant to how he got cursed.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put that out there right now.
That makes sense to me.
And that makes sense to you. And that makes sense to me too. But does it make sense all in all? Who knows? So having this conversation, in the middle of it, she's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and touch his hand anyway. So she touches the sea god's hand and she gets this vivid memory of being on a cliff of a golden city burning, of like armies fighting, and then a dragon clutching a pearl. And she wakes up and she realizes somehow that the city in her dream in the memory that she just saw is the capital city of the country that she's from.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, yeah, that must have been something that happened like hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
I wonder what that was about. And so she asks one of the main leader of these assassins, like, what did I just see? And he's like, oh, that's a nightmare. The sea god gets a nightmare every year when his bride arrives.
Mm-hmm.
You just happen to see that nightmare. She makes a lot of leaps in logic, though, throughout the book.
Yeah, she does.
And she's right every time because the author wrote this. Like, you could say that about every story.
Again, the Mary Sue of it all, of like, there's no reason you should understand this, but okay.
Do you want to take a second to talk about what a YN, what a Mary Sue is, for those of us who don't know what that might be?
Sure, yeah. I mean, like, Mary Sue, it's just basically, like, everything goes right for, like, no foreseeable reason. It's just sort of, like, almost like a God's favorite. Or, like, in YN, typically sometimes a self-insert for the author, even, too. Of just like, because this is a self-insert and it is my like idealized self, there isn't really a lot of like character flaws or growth for this character to go through, because this is already the idealized version of whatever, myself or what have you.
Right. And this character is always perfect. And Mina falls into that trap because she makes a lot of leaps in logic, and she's of course correct.
Yeah.
There's no reason why she came to this conclusion.
16.
She's 16.
What does she know?
So
not to say 16-year-olds don't know anything, but when you're in the land of spirits and shit who have been alive for ages and ages, you shouldn't know more than them.
And like the explanation given is that her grandma imbued her with so much
yeah.
knowledge, but I don't buy it, because in this moment she sees that memory, and the assassin is kind of like making fun of her, saying like, oh, you think you're going to be the one to break this curse. And she comes to the conclusion that it must be true. Like in that moment, she's like, so then a true sea god's bride must be the reason that the curse is going to get lifted. How did you come to this conclusion? Like, besides the fact that that's what your grandma kept telling you, it almost seemed like she was just confirming something that she wasn't sure was true.
Yeah.
But I don't know why seeing this memory, because we were talking, I was doing this in front of you. It's like she gets the memory, and then within the next sentence, she goes, so a true sea god's bride will be the one to lift the curse. And I go,
how
did you get that from a memory of a city burning and a dragon with a pearl?
Right.
And she says it with such conviction too.
Yeah.
And the story never challenges her.
No.
The story's like, okay, yeah, she said that and she's correct.
Yeah.
And then she makes this big grand promise. She's like, I'll be the one to break the curse then. And I go, wait, what?
Fair enough, lady. Whatever you say.
They're literally making fun of you, being like, so you think that you're going to be the one to break the curse? And she's going, no, I'm not that naive. She literally says that. She's like, I'm not that naive. And then the next page, she says,
actually, I am.
Actually, I am. I wrote down, the main assassin makes fun of her again. And then he says, like, you're just like every other bride. You're like every other girl who has been sent down here who thinks that they're going to be the one to break him from his spell.
Yeah. Or like, here's a perfect opportunity to like differentiate her, right? Of like all these other sea gods brides presumably have been sacrificed not by their own choice. Maybe it's because Mina made the choice herself that gives her this like weird edge for whatever reason. But like, nah, there's no like, it's just, I don't know, just because she says she's going to do it.
Or we get the opposite. Like, I think it'd be so funny to have a pessimistic main character who's like, dude, 98 other girls were sent before me. It's not going to be me, dude. Just show me around the city. Let me have a good time. And he's like, I'm sorry, wait, what?
Yeah.
Huh? Mm-hmm. But yeah. So yeah, he calls her, he says she's just like other girls. And she's like, of course I'm just like other girls. All those other brides were honorable and incredible, and they were doing it to protect their families, and I'm just like them. And I go, okay, yeah, fair enough. You know, stick up for these girls who basically died trying to figure out what was going on here.
Yeah.
But they bicker back and forth. It's you know how some people love to say like, this is enemies to lovers, and it's just two people who bicker for a while and then have sex.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she's a 16-year-old, and that does not happen in this book.
Yeah.
This is not a spicy novel.
No.
Yeah, this is...
And it shouldn't be.
And it shouldn't be. It's YA. This is a YA novel. But, like, that's what this vibe is, where they're bickering back and forth. And Mina's basically saying, like, the gods have abandoned their people. Like, these girls were doing what it took to protect their people. And if that sacrifice is something that you're making fun of, well, maybe your problem is with the gods. And we get this motif off the bat, too. Another theme here, where Shin is saying it's not the gods who abandon people, it's people who do that to themselves. Yeah, who abandon the gods.
Yeah. I thought that was gonna go anywhere. Not a place. Did not go anywhere.
Yeah, he's like, you guys are the reason that war happens. You kill each other, you fight amongst yourself, you pollute the rivers, you pollute the forests.
Yeah.
That's humans. Gods don't do that.
Right.
And I thought that would come up again because we had this idea of you throw a wind chime into the sea, it ends up in the sea god's palace. I was like, well, then when he said you pollute the rivers and the seas, where does that pollution go?
Right.
Is she going to see that and witness that? No, that doesn't matter.
No. And it's also like, I like touched on this in like one of my notes as I was going through this, and maybe we can touch on it a little bit more like later on or whatever. But like one of the things that I had said is like Mina constantly is like, is being like pretty like uncompassionate towards like the spirits and such that live in this world of like, she is constantly like, and gods care about humans, and gods care about humans. And they're like, what are you trying to say? What are you talking about?
And they're telling her, no, they don't.
Always like, humans matter. And it's like, okay, yeah, like I get why you're like preaching for that, because you came from the human world and you care about the other humans there. And like, she keeps being like, well, all you spirits were humans at one point. Where did your compassion go? But then when it comes to spirits, and like they get into it later where it's just like, you know, like, having the sea god there, not tied to a bride, brings sort of peace to the like spirit world, and we can get into why that is later. But then it's like she doesn't say like, oh, like it makes sense then why you're doing what you're doing, because it brings peace to your world, just like how I am here to try to bring peace to my world. Like there's never that like connection there. And that's why I thought her arc was going to be like, I am coming to a better understanding. I'm coming to a better understanding of like these people that live here and how our decisions affect them and vice versa. But like, no.
None of that.
None of that.
A lot of ideas are presented in this story that don't go anywhere, and where it
Yes.
does end up going, I'm like, that's the thing you chose?
Right.
This is the time. Oh, God. So yeah, this is where we get like, she's not like other girls. My fate is not yours to decide. Again, they're having this conversation about how people make problems for themselves and the gods don't have responsibility for people. I think Mina
Yeah.
at one point says, well, like, isn't the worship of the gods what fuels them? And he's like, no, we are independent from you. I'm like, oh. And I'm also confused here because typically in these stories, that's why humans exist.
Yeah.
But if
And it seems to be true later on. Like, he seems to admit, like, if people don't believe, then you don't have power. So, like, I don't understand. Like, there's a lot of inconsistencies, I feel like.
So many inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Okay, so eventually one of the assassins, I'm assuming Namgi, reveals that the main assassin who's been like bickering with her is Lord Shin of the House of Lotus.
Yeah.
Of Lotus House. There's various spirit houses in this world. It's so funny because later we get this weird exposition, but we'll get there. But yeah, so there's various houses. He's part of Lotus House.
Mhm.
In the original folktale, Lotus plays an important part in it.
Yeah.
And he then just cuts the red string of fate.
Sure
and
does.
it disappears.
Mhm.
She's no longer tied to the sea god. And by doing that, her soul leaves her body. It's like a blast of blinding light. And she hears like the fluttering of wings. And her soul is a magpie, like they had been making fun of her for, and also that she had said before. And Lord Shin has a cage with him. He immediately cages the bird, and she realizes she can't speak.
Mhm.
By taking her soul, he has taken away her voice. We get a line here where they're like, oh, a magpie. That's usually the soul of storytellers and like songwriters.
Yeah.
And I went, wait, what the hell? Like,
The helly?
she's a storyteller? Huh? This is like a big part of her personality. That's her soul. Because we don't get any of this. Usually stories about storytellers, I'm like, I love folk tales too, and I'm like Hollywood in the way where I love a story about a storyteller. One of my favorite romance novels, Ketera and Lord Death. Ketera is a storyteller, and that's explained right off the bat. You know this about her.
Yeah.
That's her like superpower. That's her magical talent.
Yeah.
And
it's
it's
like, okay, go ahead.
And like in that story, it's very integral to how she saves herself in that novel.
Yeah.
Her ability to tell stories. And this novel, I would argue, no.
No, because it's more so that her grandmother is the storyteller, and it's like maybe we get into just like generationally that's like passed down or what have you, but like throughout this, it's not like Mina telling stories, and when she is telling stories, it's her recounting other like June's stories, her grandmother's stories. It's never really her own stories that she's telling. It's just, or there was like one instance where she's like, June always liked it when I like kind of like played off the cuff and like made my own story.
But she doesn't.
She does that like once in the entire book.
So yeah, Mina can't speak. Her voice is gone. She's like, they're all ignoring her. I think Namgi's like, I don't know. I think she's saying something, but whatever. Yeah. Kieran isn't even looking at her. He's just taking the cage from Shin and saying, hey, at the end of the month, you can come to Lotus House and get your soul back. Yeah. See you then. Lord Shin is saying, you two go on ahead. I'm going to stay back for a hot second. So Kieran and Namgi leave. Shin remains. Mina still has her grandmother's knife. And so as she's talking to Shin, she's like, don't do anything. Like, don't kill me. And she's like yelling at him. Nothing is coming out of her voice, but she's like, how could you do this to me? Where are you taking my soul? You're a weirdo.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
In this conversation, they're once again bickering back and forth. She hates him. She thinks he's a skis ball. At this point, I think he's taken his mask off. Yeah. And he is the most beautiful man she's ever seen. Classic. When I heard that, I was like, oh, he's a love interest. Great. Yep. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But yeah, so they're bickering. We find out a few things. One, he cut the red string of fate specifically to protect the sea god. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what he does every year. A sea god's bride shows up. He severs the red string of fate. And the reason that he does this is because it would affect the sea god directly. Her being tied to him and being a mortal tied to him makes him vulnerable. When he's in his like sleep god untethered form, he's basically untouchable. Yeah. And all the other gods who would want his power and want to be in his position of power cannot harm him. Mm-hmm. But if he is tied to a mortal, he then opens himself up because their fates are tied to each other to injury and vulnerability. So as a result, every year Shin shows up, snips that, but in doing that, takes the sea god's bride's soul.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. This is his job every year.
Sick. What a job.
Yep. And then he again makes fun of her for believing in this myth that the sea god's bride will save the sea god, which is such a weird thing to make fun of her for. One, given that so many people believe in this, including other gods.
Yeah. Also, it's just like,
It's true.
obviously people have believed in this. Like, they've sent down 98 other what are you talking about?
What are you talking
Does
about?
he make fun
dude?
of all of them? Like,
And one thing we don't find out is why does that quell him temporarily?
well, why, like, the sea god?
Is a sea god like
So I
Mhm.
think it's because when you have the red string of fate tied to you, if something happens to the person
Mhm.
that it's tied to, you can possibly die as well.
Sure,
And that's what makes him vulnerable. So,
I'm-
like, if someone attacks, like, the sea god's bride,
yeah,
then he could die. But if
Okay.
he's not tied to anything, then he's just a god.
but why does sending a sea god's bride down make the storms go away?
Oh, yeah.
Like we never find out that like, oh well, actually, when you send a bride down, they pat him on the back and they make him feel good for another year so the
Yeah.
storms go away. It's just sort of like we never get explained why he's suddenly quelled by it, like for temporarily.
Right. So and this is not said in the novel. This is just sort of like what I kind of
Assumed.
concocted
Sure.
myself. But it's like later on in the book we see that like when he gets really, really emotional, the storms get really, really bad.
Yeah.
Of like when he gets really upset. So in my mind, it's like the sea god's bride is down there and is sort of like there to like regardless if he's talking to them or not, it's like said that he's like lonely. So it's like for a bit he has like another person there to like kind of like comfort him and like make him less lonely, so he is less prone to getting upset, and therefore the storms are less likely to come because he's not having this like emotional reaction. But why it's like after a year that doesn't work anymore, I
like-
couldn't even begin to speculate.
The 5 minutes that these women are in the palace before the red tie gets severed is enough for this god.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm sure
No,
that
no.
might be the reason. I just we never get an understanding of like why does
Again.
the sea god's bride? Why is that the answer? Like, yeah, I guess he's lonely, and a woman being there for 2 seconds is enough for him. The incel of it all.
Yeah, I was like, I don't
Jeez
know if it's just
Louise.
like he's not like cognizant, unless he's like, I don't know. I really have no idea. My speculation is like, yeah, there's definitely holes in it, but I really was like, I don't know how else to explain.
I mean, I keep being like, I love a folktale, I love it, whatever. But I also love a curse, like because a curse, the way you break a curse is so fun and interesting and magical. And it says a lot about like the intent of what that curse was supposed to mean.
Yeah.
And this just fell so flat.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Or like, someone else has put him under this curse because they want people to start believing in him less and less, so he loses power. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. But we don't get that.
Nope.
Instead, Shin makes fun of her again for believing in this myth. And then he pieces out. He's like, all right, I'm good. He makes fun of her so much.
Yeah.
And her stance on it each time is so different. She's like, I'm not naive, or I do believe in the myth, or
Yeah.
and they're not consistent within one chapter. He leaves, and then the sea god lets out a great sigh and sends her out of his palace, basically.
Yeah.
Which I'm also just like, if you're lonely, why aren't you keeping her around? What is
That's not his bride anymore.
that's not, I guess so.
I guess.
Those 5 minutes of potential hand holding was enough. She's out of the castle. She's back into the sea god city. It is like more of a bustling city now. She can't hear her own breathing. Like basically no sound will come out of her, but she's like silently crying to herself when 3 spirits show up. There's like a young girl who goes by the name of Mask. There's a young boy named Dai, and there's a little baby named Miki. And these 3 spirits are like, why are you crying? What are you doing down there? And she can't speak. And it's this annoying little combo of like, well, what is she saying? I don't know what she's talking about. Well, she must be asking what's going on here. And they are like locked in and clued in under this situation. They're like, oh yeah, you are wondering about your soul? Sure. That is probably at Lotus House. We can take you there and help you out. Oh, how do we know this? Well, that's basically what happens every year to every bride. Oh, how do we know you were a sea god's bride? Well, you just came out of the sea god's palace and your soul was taken.
Right.
Like, so we have this dumb exposition about how they all know this information, and they immediately are like, you know what? We're going to help you out. We've decided that we're going to help you out. They walk her through the city. There are people in it now. Everything's like, streets are bustling. There's food vendors there. They buy steam buns. They're like sitting and eating these steam buns where a processional goes by. I think it's like in a palanquin is a beautiful woman. And Mina asks who that is. And they go, oh, that was a former sea god's bride. She looks into the palanquin and she sees somebody that she recognizes named Hyeri. Hyeri was the sea god's bride from a year before. And long story short, but Hyeri had stayed with them and Mina was kind of her like lady in waiting, lady's maid.
Got her ready for to be sacrificed, basically.
Right. So they are familiar with each other, and Mina's like, oh God, I know her, but she can't say that. So instead she starts crying, and they're like, you cry all the time, dude. You're fucking and yes, they're correct. She does cry all the time. But we find out that Hyeri, former sea god's bride, now married to the god of death, Shiki.
Mm-hmm.
And Shin and Shiki had a fight last year over her soul. So basically, Shiki wanted to get it back. Shin was unwilling to give it back to him.
Mm-hmm.
And she, I guess, intervened and managed to get her soul back.
Yeah.
And they got married, and it's happily ever after for the two of them.
Yeah.
And I want to look at that story.
Yeah, what's that about?
What's that about? You're telling me a former sea god's bride, a former like chosen one, basically, changed her fate and is now married to a completely different god, the god of death of all people?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Especially because this character specifically has a complicated relationship to death because her sister was also a sea god's bride, but she explains not, and trigger warning here, suicide, not necessarily because she felt like it was her duty or important to be. It was just too difficult for her to live as herself.
Yeah.
So it's a better alternative to just give herself up.
Which makes sense when we like think about how Shim Chung is like being treated, basically. Of like when she was branded as the sea god's bride, like no one really cared to get to know her because they were like, well, we know you're gonna die. So like what's the point?
Right. Yeah. So basically we get a little bit of backstory on this other sea god's bride, whatever that means. Save that for later. They're taking her to Lotus House. Specifically, the three kids are taking Mina to Lotus House.
Yeah.
And as soon as they get outside of Lotus House, Mina realizes that she recognizes one of the guards. It's an old friend of her brother's. Her name is Nari. And the backstory with Nari is that she was her brother's best friend. She's like 2 years older than Mina. She was not a sea god's bride, one of the few in the story for some reason. She just coincidentally died at sea.
Yeah.
And now she's here working as a guard for Lotus House. So she goes up, she talks to Nari. Nari's like, oh my God, Mina. Like every other character, Nari has to give a whole backstory about how when we were little, I found you really annoying because you kept following him like a duckling. This girl is nothing but a bird. Nothing but a bird. And, I couldn't stand that. And he would always slow himself down so that you could catch up with us. But I liked your spirit and I thought you were a good person. So I'll help you out now. And you can trust me because I really cared about your brother. I'm like, why?
Fair enough.
We're getting this info dump. This is like a weird way to talk to people.
Yeah. And like completely, like, if I came up to you and just started talking this way, you'd be like, what's wrong with you?
I would
What's going on?
Or like off the get-go to be like, here's my first impression of you. And here's all the feelings that I ever had about you. My God. So yeah, every year, Lotus House throws like a little house party, essentially.
Yeah.
To show that they have severed the connection between the sea god and his bride.
Yeah.
And this is really important because if that connection still exists, all of the other houses and other gods will be in turmoil trying to vie for power. So this is them being like, we did it. That connection doesn't exist. You guys can continue to go about your way and nobody needs to know about anything.
And they show the soul.
Yeah.
To be like, proof.
We have it. They make a mention like last year, Hyeri, the god of death's now bride, her soul was a minnow. So I'm sure you just held up a fish and went, I got it. We're good. Do you think he brought around like a fish tank?
Like a little fishbowl?
Fishbowl?
Probably.
Sure. Why not?
Hey, if the bird gets a cage, minnow gets a fishbowl. Why not?
Yeah. So Nari basically says, we can dress you up as a servant. And while people don't get fevers down here, they do get hangovers. So you can just pretend as if you are hungover and you have to wear a mask. And that's why people can't see you. Anyways, Nari's like, I gotta go, but like, I'm sure you can find your way around the house. She's wearing her mask. Namgi shows up. He thinks she's a servant. So he's like, can you get me more wine? Nari, who just left her alone for some reason, is right back here being like, actually, Namgi, this servant doesn't have time for you. So leave her alone. And I'm like, what was the point of this interlude? Just to show that Namgi...
I feel like it was supposed to build tension of like, oh, is she getting caught? But it didn't at all.
Yeah. Because within like a paragraph, everything was resolved.
Yeah.
So Namgi's gone, but like in that, she then overhears Kieran having a conversation with Shin.
Mhm.
And the conversation is essentially Kieran going, this is kind of unsustainable. Like it's such a burden for you to bear. Every single year you have to do this and it's a lot on you. It's too much for one person.
Yeah.
And in this moment, she realizes, oh, Shin is protecting the sea god. He cares about the sea god. And immediately she's like, I kind of have a little bit more compassion for him now. And I kind of see where he's coming from. He's
I'm
a good
trying
guy.
to protect my people too, so I get it.
Yeah, exactly. And so within just that little conversation, she's already like rethinking her idea of what this guy is. She's like, well,
Yeah.
actually, he is a good person.
Okay.
Okay, whatever. But then she sees two thieves entering the palace, and or not palace, but like entering this compound. And she's like, well, maybe I should tell him. Nah, forget it. He stole my soul from me. So it's ironic that two thieves are stealing from him. And I'm like, where did this? You were just saying he was a good guy and that you.
Whatever.
So much. But she finds his room. It's so easy for her to find this room. It's like
found it almost immediately.
Found it almost immediately. Empty except for a magpie in a cage. And she's like so excited. She's like, oh, I found my soul. But then Shin enters the room. Awesome. She hides. He walks around. She goes, oh, it's his room. The door closes. She's like, okay, great. He's gone. She gets out. She goes to the cage. He gets out of his hiding spot. He's like, I should have known. You would have sneaky. You would have come here for your soul. He catches her. They argue again. And at one point during the argument, she goes, well, just let me help you because it's such a burden to bear. And I guess that really moved him. He was like,
Sure, why not?
what? Okay. And right then, boom, these thieves show up and they're like, we're here for the magpie. Put your hands up. This happens so much in this book where like random fight scene will happen. So these two thieves are in this room. They want the magpie. I believe just to like, they want the magpie.
Yeah.
And I think, because we never get told why. I think the overall idea is like they'll put the soul back into the bride and then they'll reconnect the red string of fate.
Yeah.
And then they'll kill the sea god.
Yeah.
Assumedly. Is this the first year that's happening? Shouldn't this happen every year? Shouldn't every year thieves and plunderers show up?
Yeah.
I guess it's incredible timing. So this is the year where they decide to make their move.
When I make my move.
No.
Sorry.
It's all good. But so they're in this room. They're trying to fight Shin. Shin's got the magpie in his hand. He's like, before they enter, he has a feeling that something's about to happen. So he tells Mina to hide. Mina's hiding. He's having this fight scene with them. She sees one of them has a crossbow in his hand. That's why like, it's going to shoot him. And before he can release the crossbow, she gets out of her hiding place, pushes Shin out of the way. But in doing that, releases the magpie. And in releasing the magpie, she gets her soul back and she can hear her heart flutter. And wow, isn't this so wonderful? But oh no, she looks down, red string of fate. But where does it go? Oh no!
Shin!
It's tied to Shin. And if you weren't already suspicious of how this book ends, I think this would clue you in. It's a very predictable way.
Yeah.
So now she is fated to Shin, and the thieves get away. They escape. They're like, the magpie's gone. We'll regroup and figure this out. They have a moment where he's like, what just happened? What's going on? And she offers an explanation. She's like, well, maybe when my soul reconnected with my body, you took a little bit of my soul. And maybe that's why we're connected to each other. And she goes to touch his hand and he holds her hand and he's like, okay, did anything happen? No.
Yeah.
Being such a jerk about it. Kieran and Namgi show up, but they can't see the string.
Before all this too, he tries to cut it in the same way that he cut the sea god's string to her. But this time it doesn't cut.
His knife just goes right through it.
It just goes right through it.
Yeah, exactly. And then Kieran and Namgi can't see it. It's only visible to Mina and Lord Shin.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, you know what? We still have to do the presentation. Let's go. And yeah, we'll just bring her with us. Whatever. So all four of them leave the room area that they're in. And then Imogi show up. Imogi are these like snake-like dragon type spirits.
Like huge serpents.
Huge serpents in the sky. And they like show up and act threatening. I don't think they're attacking them just yet.
Not yet.
No, but there's like a messenger named Ryugi who's there to be like, the moon goddess wants to know like where the bride is. Basically, you got to present it to me. What's going on here? And they have this really convoluted back and forth where Shin's like, I don't know, I don't have her. And he's like, wait, what? That's like your whole thing. Do you have her soul? No. Okay, but wait, where's the bride? And he's like, I don't want to tell you. Okay. Huh? And Kieran gets fed up and is like, she's the moon god's bride. And this Ryugi's like, are you sure? Again, this girl is getting dogged on. And he's like, that can't be her. And he's like, okay, if that's her, where's the red string of fate? Because otherwise, where's her soul? And Shin doesn't have an explanation for him. So then he just blurts out, well, actually, she's my bride now.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait, what? What am I going to tell my goddess?
And there's like a weird like moment where Namgi's like smiling about this for no reason.
He.
Seemingly, like, I don't know why he's happy about this.
It's such an awkward scene, and I don't think it's meant to be. I don't get the sense that this scene is supposed to be like a comedy.
I think it was so funny as soon as Kieran's like, yeah, she's right here. Just like fully was just like, I don't give a fuck about her. Like, yeah, right here.
You can take her right here. If you want to kill somebody, it's this girl right here. And yeah, this messenger from the moon goddess, goddess of moon and memory. I should say that they use full titles in this book. So it's always goddess of moon and memory.
Yeah.
So the goddess of moon and memory sent Ryugi. Ryugi's like, wait, what am I supposed to tell her? And Shin goes, well, she's my bride now. She was the former sea god's bride, but now her and I are getting married. So if your goddess wants confirmation, she can come here and see for herself, or she can show up at our wedding.
In a month.
And Mina's like, wait, what?
Huh?
Huh? This book, no, I'll talk about it later. This book, oh God. So they leave. They're like, I guess that's our answer.
Yeah.
You know, you're marrying the sea god's bride, and that's good enough for now.
Clap if you care. All right, let's move on. Perfect.
Shin and Mina do another bicker about the responsibility of gods. Like, I'm not even going to get into the details. It's basically Mina again saying, humans are important. God should protect humans. We worship you guys. We care about you guys. And Shin's response is just like, that does not matter to us, not to the gods. The gods are whatever. Humans are ruining the gods, so like, why should we care about humans?
Yeah.
It's a very boring conversation that goes nowhere.
Yep.
And it doesn't even really give a lot of like, in these moments, you'd hope for the two of them to start to like understand each other or bond a little bit more.
Nah,
just them bickering. And Shin makes this comment that's, well, I just don't think love should be given freely. Basically being like, why should the gods just love humans?
Or isn't it just like, I thought it was the opposite of just like, love should only be given freely. Like, it should not be just given because you're asking for it. Like, we should be,
give
it to you.
Exactly. That's the idea here. Basically, like, it shouldn't just be because you want us to love you that we love you.
Yeah.
Right? It should be our choice to love humans or whatever. And Mina goes, you know, fair enough, respect. And I was like, what? That is a bad answer. I think personally, you were well, whatever. Mina's like, you know what? That's correct. And I understand him now. I get it. I get what he's saying. No. The resolution to what is the responsibility of gods and what is the responsibility of humans, it just ends with, well, gods can do whatever they want. Because they have feelings and rights too.
Hey, gods are people too.
Gods are people too. But yeah, they get to Fox House. The leader is a demon. And immediately she pounces and trying to break the... Sorry, I'm on a main road. But yeah, so the leader of Fox House is a fox demon. She jumps on the red string of fate trying to break it. She can't. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, cool. Well, I've like seen this before. This means you guys are soulmates.
Yeah. Or like, it's a very dangerous bond to have.
Yeah. It's a very deep bond. It's a soulmate bond. Anything that happens to Shin or happens to you would directly affect Shin. Mm-hmm. This cannot just be cut by like any means.
Yeah.
And Shin's reaction is like, well, that can't be right. We can't be soulmates. And it's this is a moment where I'm like, haha, because Mina goes, well, what the hell? Like, that's rude. And he's like, no, it's because I don't have a soul. And then that never gets brought up again. Okay, cool.
All right, cool detail.
Cool detail. It gets brought up in the sense that I guess it eventually ties into it,
Sure.
but it's whatever. He doesn't have a soul. That's
Yeah.
why they can't be soulmates.
And she's sad about it. She's like, oh.
Yeah, they get back to Lotus House, and she's hanging out at Lotus House for a couple days. And then eventually she's like, well, I want to go check out the Sea God's Palace. And they're like, actually, you can't leave. Shin kind of gave us orders to not let you leave.
This part pissed me off.
Why?
Because she immediately is just like, oh, he said that, like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, while I'm his bride, I can move around freely, but he's keeping me trapped at this house. It's like, you.
This happens so much.
She, like, this fox goddess just said, like, that if anything happens to you, it'll affect him.
Yep.
So, like, do you not think for a second that maybe it's like him trying to protect you? And even if it is a selfish means of like in preserving himself, like it's not like this, like, oh, I'm keeping you on lockdown for no reason. It's like you're a human in the spirit world. Like, no that you wouldn't just have free reign of everywhere.
Every time this happens, the character doesn't even for a second go, I get his reason, fair enough, but I'm impatient, or like,
Yeah,
I know I'm making this risk, but I think it's worth the risk.
Yeah,
If
I
a
only have
character
30 days,
I only have
so-
30 days. Like, I truly feel a pull, or I feel like I have something to offer, and I know it's kind of selfish, but like I want to do it anyways.
Yeah,
I would respect that more than just, well, that's not fair. That's not fair that he's keeping me here. It's like, dude, you dying makes him die.
I think I wrote down, it was like, her being 16 really shows here.
Oh yeah. And that happens a lot in these tropes too, of like,
Yeah.
I'm trapped in this house. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Okay, then what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Whine? Which is what she does. And then Namgi shows up, and Namgi's like, oh, don't worry, because she's talking to Nari at this point.
Yeah.
If you remember, Nari is the guard who's also her friend. But yeah, Namgi shows up and he's like, oh, I got it. I'll take her around town.
He kind of like dunks on her a little bit though. Just like, you're asking your friend Nari, who could get in so much trouble, to break you out of the palace. That's kind of shitty of you.
Right.
I'll take you though.
Yeah, I'll take you though. So Namgi immediately breaks that rule. He takes her out of the palace, or of Lotus House, and is like walking her to the palace, in which he reveals that he's also an Imugi. We learn a little bit about their lore, and this is what I mean when I say the lore is interesting. I don't necessarily know if that's Axie Oh, who did that, but essentially we learned that they are these like large water snakes, or he specifically is like a water version of this, but he wants to become a dragon. And in the Imugi lore, they believe that if they fight 1,000 battles, they'll ascend to godhood.
Or they live 1,000 years.
Or they live 1,000 years. Either one, which is why a lot of them join really warring clans. So like the goddess of movement and memory, I guess, hires a lot of these Imugi or they sign up with her a lot because she does get into a lot of fights. And he was initially going to do that, but he felt like being a rebel. He just like didn't fit his ethos. So instead, he heard a rumor that Shin had a dragon's pearl, and he was hoping to get that so that he could make a wish to be a dragon himself. But obviously, he got to Lotus House. Shin's room was empty. And then Mina chimes in being like, yeah, my grandmother always told me to put stuff away, but I never listened to her. Shin's room is so empty. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is like teenager conversation.
I guess, yeah.
I guess this is how people talk to each other. But yeah, we're basically just getting backstories.
Yeah. We also learned when like the Imugi came to Lotus House that like the Ryugi is Namgi's brother.
His brother. But then does that matter ever again?
No. And they also dropped that it's like the Imugi are responsible for wiping out all of Kieran's like clan, whatever clan that is. We don't ever hear the name of it. But
well, Kieran's
yeah, probably Kieran.
Probably just Kieran, because if you're not familiar, a Kieran is like a type of spirit in Korean mythology. It's sort of like a deer with these like huge antlers and has sort of like draconic features. But this is the equivalent of naming a character Griffin, and then he turns out to be a griffin. I was like, what the hell? You just named the guy the thing he is? You didn't give him like a real name?
He doesn't deserve one.
He what? So what? It's like my friend Unicorn over here. Oh shit, he's a unicorn. Oh. God.
I could have never seen this coming.
I could have never seen this coming. Sorry for that spoiler for when Kieran goes into his Kieran self.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm pronouncing that incorrectly and I apologize. But yeah, so at one point, while they're in the city, Dai, one of those 3 spirits, distracts Namgi, which allows Mina to escape and go to the sea god's palace.
Yeah.
And Mask is there. Mask's like, get him! The doors are open. Go in there. And she's like, why are you guys helping me? And Mask is like,
I gotta just say, it's so fucking obvious who these spirits are, and it really pisses me off how long it takes for that to be confirmed.
it's also, no, we'll get to it. Every time I'm like, I don't want to talk about it now. We'll talk about it when it happens so that I can go, what the hell was this? But yeah, so in this courtyard, she's in the palace. She goes to some of these courtyards. There's a courtyard with a pavilion with a pond in it. And in that pond, there is a paper boat just floating. I gotta ask, why the hell are all the paper boats happening? Every time a paper boat shows up, it's happening in the sea god's palace. Is the idea that like these boats are floating to the sea so that he will grant their wish?
I think it's that, yeah, they're giving the wishes to the sea god. So like
Okay.
that's why it shows up in there.
Okay.
I
Sure. Okay, but yeah, in this one pond, there's one boat, and she's like, "Oh, I know what these are. Like, I'll go look at that." So she goes, she grabs the boat, and it's a wish from a young woman who is like praying to the goddess of women and children. Which then why is it going to the sea god's palace? Is it because he's the god? Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so she's in this memory of this woman, and she's just praying for the goddess of women and children to save her child. And Shin arrives and like wakes her up out of this memory and is like, what the hell? Like, you disobeyed me. You weren't supposed to leave my the house or whatever. That could have been really bad for you. And he's scolding her, and she can only focus on the fact that she needs to do something about this wish.
mm-hmm.
She's like, listen, I will stay in your house. I will not leave as long as you do me this one solid and take me to the goddess of women and children so I can convince her to make this wish for me. This whole thing could have been thrown away. This whole side quest was irrelevant and useless.
Well, but how would she know that he's a good person otherwise?
Oh my god. Okay. So he's like, all right, fair. Like, bet.
Yeah,
I'll take you to
cool.
the cool. He's like, I don't think this is gonna go the way you think it is. She's like, but I have to at least try. So he takes her to the goddess of women and children. So they get there, and this goddess is truly terrible. Mina goes, hey, I have a wish from somebody who made a wish to you. Can you grant this wish?
Yeah, do something.
And she's like, I want gold.
Gold.
Ooh. I mean, I was like, well, I don't have gold. And she's like, well, I don't care. Unless you pay me
You know what?
coin.
Real.
I,
So real.
So real. I don't care. And she's like cackling like a villainess, like, give me your money. And Shin is like, oh, here you go. Like, gives her money.
Yeah.
The goddess takes this wish and is like, this wish is so old. You got
She's
scammed.
dead, you idiot.
You idiot.
He's laughing about it. It was classic.
Yeah, and so the goddess is like, I got your money and you didn't even get a wish, you idiot. Get out. No. And Shin's like, Mina is so upset. She's like, that sucks. We love you guys. We love the gods. We care so much about you. I loved you. I cared so much about you. And to know that this is how the gods treat the people that make wishes to them. And again, they're arguing because, like we said before, she believes like the gods have some responsibility to their subjects. And he's just like, well, we can't all, do the things that are asked of us. And she goes, we? So you're a god. What are you the god of? And he's like, it doesn't even matter. You can't.
Before all this, too, like, while she's in the moon house, the goddess is just like, haha, this is old. Throws the paper boat on the fire.
Oh, right.
Throws it on the fire. And Mia goes, no, and reaches into the fire to try to grab the boat. And she gets burned.
And yeah, her hand is fully
very
burned.
badly.
Okay.
Anyway,
Not
that matters.
No, it does for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, her hand's burned. She's upset. She's like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. He reveals that actually he is a god. And she goes, what are you the god of? And he's like, doesn't matter. You can't be the god of something you don't even believe in. And then that's it. Okay. What?
Sick.
That makes sense if he's the god of humans or if he's the god of humanity or the god of hope.
Nope.
When you find out the twist in this story, that line is so edgelord for no reason. What, you don't believe in?
Dude,
What?
he's in black robes all the time. He's an emo boy.
Yeah. So yeah, they get back to Loda's house and Kieran shows up. He slits his wrist. He slits his hand.
He kills
Kills himself. But we find out that his blood is magical, and when he puts his blood against her hand, it heals it. And I think that's probably just like a folklore thing. Maybe like the blood of a Kieran.
Yeah. And he's just like, yeah, your hand's gonna hurt, but it's largely healed. Yep. Anyway, peace out.
So she promised Shin that she would stay in the house if he did this for her. And even though it didn't go the way she wanted to, she wants to uphold this promise. So she's like hanging out at the house, hanging out with these maids, like doing chores. Mask shows up and Mask's like, what happened to you wanting to like figure out stuff for the sea god? Like what happened to that? And in the interim, Shin is like, I'm gonna leave to go find these assassins. Like the three of us are gonna head out to go find them. Please, for the love of God, stay in the house. So she is listening to what he's saying. She made this promise, but Mask is a little disappointed in her. Of like, and her excuse is, well, my hand is healing. And Mask's like, well, you're using it to do other stuff.
I can't remember if this happens before or after this interaction, but I know that like she wakes up and she sees that the paper boat that was thrown into the fire is in Shin's room now. Like, so feasibly he has gone and gotten this boat.
Yep.
I don't remember if that happened before.
No. When she wakes up, this is in the room here.
Yeah.
And Shin's gone.
Is it before Shin leaves? Is that the moment where like they like, oh God, I'm trying to remember. The like events of this story are so jumbled for me. Mm-hmm. There's like the moment where they have a nice moment of like they remove the screen between them when they're sleeping in the room. And like he's having a nightmare, and it also helps humanize. I think that later.
That happens later.
Anyway,
but I do think that the boat is in this room. The paper boat is already in this room. So yeah, he went back. He got the boat for her because he knew that it was important to her. She's like, oh, he's a good guy.
He's a good man, Savannah. A good man.
When they were at the Sea God's palace, when she was looking at those paper boats, they couldn't find the Sea God there. He's usually in one of two rooms because he's usually asleep. Actually, he's always been asleep. And he's either in his throne room or he's in one other room, basically. But they're saying like he's not in either of those rooms. So that's really confusing for me. Let's go and figure out what's going on. Yeah. Shin is like on board with having her at the palace. So they go to the palace next day. They're wandering around. There's more pawns with a boat. But this time she knows what this boat is. It's like a ripped up piece of paper with a string basically stitching it back together. And when she goes to reach for the boat, she realizes it's not there. But this is like an important memory for her that we'll get into later. But when she turns back around, she goes to get the boat. It's not there. She turns back around. Shin's passed out face down on the floor. And then suddenly the Sea God and it is down. Passed down. Sup. And she rushes over. I think she like puts his head in her lap. And the Sea God is like, you've returned. I think he's a creepy little boy. Okay, back to Baldur's Gate. You know how Halsin has that like freak kid that he's
Thaniel?
Yeah, I mean,
it's so scary.
It's giving Dark Thaniel vibes. Because he literally is standing there and he goes, you could tell me a story. And this is halfway through the novel. This is when we get the first iteration of her telling a story. And it's not even of her own volition. Some weirdo teen boy is like,
you tell me a story.
You could tell me a story. She's like, okay, if you want me to. And this is what I mean about like the ease of a storyteller, because in a lot of these like folk tales, specifically about storytelling, the storyteller is trying to tell some higher power or person with power the moral of what they're trying to get at, right? Yeah. You're injecting a story about whatever. And like she does that with this story, but it's not of her own volition. Yeah. For some reason, this god is like, tell me a story, babe.
Come on. Entertain me.
I'm awake now, but I need a story so I can go back to sleep. So stupid. So she tells him a story about these two brothers, one of which was really wonderful to a swallow, like a bird, the swallow. And the bird comes back.
He's poor.
He's a poor guy, but there's a swallow with a broken wing. And so he takes that swallow in, heals it. The next day, the swallow comes and like gives this man like a bunch of eggs. And he opens those eggs, and inside those eggs are wonderful jewels and wealth and grand things for him. So he lives a life of luxury. His brother sees that, and his brother's like, okay. He goes and gets a swallow. He breaks those swallow's wings. He then fixes that swallow, hoping to like get a reward. The swallow comes back, gives him a bunch of eggs, but in each eggs are like demons and debt collectors and really, really terrible things. And that brother is like, oh, I was a really bad guy, and I feel bad about being a bad guy. So he goes to that first brother, basically saying like, I'm sorry that I acted this way. I'm sorry that I treated people in my life so poorly. And his brother's like, I forgive you.
Yeah. And here's money.
And here's some money. We'll share in our wealth together. And it's, and I forgive you. And the god goes, why did you tell me the story? What was the moral of the story?
It's so sad.
It's a sad. And her response is like, I don't know. It's like a story. You can make meaning out of it yourself. But I think that it means that no one is too late for forgiveness. And he's like, I am. And then he disappears. And Shin wakes up. And Shin wakes up and they're fine.
Yeah. Really cool.
So yeah, they go back to Lotus House. The next day they get a missive from Lord Crane and Lord Tiger of Crane and Tiger House. They were supposed to be there the night of the announcement that they have like the Sea God provides souls, but because of everything that happened with the Imugi and those thieves, like it didn't end up working out. So yeah, Lord Crane is saying, okay, I have info about Lord Tiger's deception. So if you come to my house, I'll tell you about that. And Mina saying, well, if I remember correctly, Lord Crane's house is the one that houses scholars. It's like each house kind of houses the spirits of people who fit these categories. So Crane House is kind of like the scholars.
Yeah.
So can I come with you guys so I can learn a little bit more about what's going on with this red string of fate?
Which is the dumbest decision she could have ever made. Because like we learn earlier in the book that it's like Lord Crane and Lord Tiger are little nasty and they like are the ones like probably the two biggest proponents for like trying to vie after the sea god's powers. So why would you go to Lord Crane's house?
This was so confusing to me. I felt like there were many moments in this book where something was already stated and then a character would act as if they weren't sure about it. Like I thought we already knew that Lord Crane and Lord Tiger were bad people. They're bad news. And then in this moment, they're treating it like, well, Lord Crane's an ally, so we'll work with him.
In my head, it was like Shin being like, yeah, I know he's a dude. And because I know he's a dude, I like, if he is actually ratting out Lord Tiger, then at the very least, I can like get Lord Tiger out of the picture and then I can just focus on Lord Crane. But then that makes no sense on why he would decide to bring Mina, who if something happens to her, he dies too. Whatever. So they go to Crane House, and he leaves Mina with Kieran. So yeah, Kieran is kind of like, whatever, dude. Yeah. So she's meandering the library. She's moving further and further away from him. It's a huge library, and he kind of just lets her go. Excuse me. Which again, girl, take a minute to recognize where you are and maybe like don't wander away from the person who's supposed to help protect you. But whatever, you do you, I guess.
She leaves his side, and in that, she ends up meeting Lord Crane.
Yep.
Lord Crane is sitting around a room. He's like, "Oh, hey, girl, you're the sea god.
Here.
Come on, let's have some tea. Let's talk about some tea." And he's like, "Well, I'm Lord Crane of Scholars. You can ask me anything, but you gotta ask me the question." And yeah, she's basically asking like, "Hey, how do I fix the sea god's curse?" I like that she immediately gets into it. She's not fluffing about.
Yeah.
She's like, "Okay, so how do I break this curse?" Because right now, I guess, I don't know if it's, no, right now, like, the red string of fate is tied to somebody else. How do I, without admitting that it's Shin, she's just like, how do I get the red string of fate tied back to the sea god?
I don't think she talks about the red string of fate at all, though, right? Because it's invisible.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't bring it up. I think it's just more so like, yeah, how do I break the sea god's
curse? How do I break the sea god's curse? But he's like, you need to be tied back to the sea god.
Yeah.
Your fate needs to be tied back to the sea god. Well, she's like, well, I don't have that. It's not currently tied.
How do I do that?
So how do I do that? And here we get, and this pisses me off. The Crane Lord Crane is just like, well, you can just make it happen. The red string of fate isn't necessarily a soulmate thing. If you are just like duty bound to somebody, if you just have like a reason to be with somebody, you can make it happen.
Yeah.
You can change your fate and make yourself tied to somebody else. And in like having a stronger connection with the sea god, you then reaffirm that connection. And then this red string of fate will tie you to the sea god. So actually the red string of fate is nothing.
Well, for me, I thought
No.
this was like, I thought this was like kind of tied to like, you know, your fate is not set in stone. You can change it, which like kind of goes along with like what we're trying to like do or whatever of like, hey, you don't have one soulmate that you're tied to. You can have many, but I guess like,
Don't pull in a whole mythology
No, I
about
know.
how your fate is tied with a string.
I
If the red
know.
string of fate is so easily moved, which it
What's
is,
the point?
what is the point of the red string of fate?
Yeah.
It would be one thing to be like, hey, you as a mortal need to be tied to an immortal.
Well, they do say that though.
Yeah, they do say it. It's like if you don't have like that tether within 30 days, your soul will leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why, like, I'm assuming a lot of them died because when their soul left their
Right.
body, 30 days passed and they would die. But what I'm trying to get at is like, instead of having it that she needs to be tied by fate, because to me, it's like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
I do, you know, stories about like changing your destiny, changing your fate are really wonderful. But in this book, what we're calling fate isn't fate then.
No.
It's not at all. So like the red string of, you know, fate or whatever
Yeah.
is a useless mechanic in this novel.
No, truly.
If you could just get closer to another person and just choose that your fate is tied to them.
That seems to be the theme of this book generally though, like with the red string of fate, but also it's brought up several times of like, well, Mina, this is happening because like you believe in this other thing. And if you just start believing in this thing, like that'll be true for you. And it's like, what are we talking about here? This is like the same thing as like the woo woo, like if I just say these affirmations, it'll become my reality.
Yeah.
Like
It's the secret. She's basically doing that. It's like, if I think hard enough,
if
I will be the
say
sea god's bride.
I am the sea god's bride.
And it's not like none of these moments are ever these huge climactic moments because it would be one thing if like in changing her string of fate to somebody else, she has changed her own fate. We've already seen that happen.
Yeah.
So it's not that big a deal if she does it again.
Right.
We're not like, oh my God, that's incredible. What a beautiful, impactful moment. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah, sick.
Tie it to the cart guy down the street. No, that's a fun party trick. Hey, watch this. Woo. And what we find, and it's happening like right soon, is that this book has so many little mini climaxes. Don't. Climax is a story term where like something will happen and you think this is the big end. And I was listening to this on audiobook. I listen to a lot of our book club picks on audiobook because I have a physical TBR and I really do not want to buy any more books to add to that TBR. We talk a lot about like sustainable buying in our own personal lives. And so one of those things I'm like, I've amassed a collection of books that I've gotten secondhand from friends or free little libraries, whatever. So if I can just listen to a book, I will.
Yeah.
And because I'm not physically holding a book, there were so many moments in this novel where I'm like, okay, so this is the end.
Yeah. We're wrapping up.
We're wrapping up. And then I would look at my phone and I'm like, 4 hours? 4 more hours? Because you would think, okay, in the beginning of the novel, the goal is going to be to get my soul back and
Yeah.
go back and meet the sea god. No, she gets it quite quickly and immediately.
Yeah.
Okay, the goal will be to, I guess, untie yourself to the red string of fate. Well, halfway through the book, somebody tells you can just do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And
So the goal.
so the goal actually, and it just keeps on happening. There's so many moments where you're like, this has got to be the big finale. And you're like, no, actually not. So yeah, she's having this conversation with Lord Crane. Lord Crane basically reveals that if she gets closer to the sea god and just basically like cares about him more than Shin, he doesn't say Shin. He doesn't know it's Shin.
Yeah.
But we know that the implication is like, if she cares more about the sea god than she cares about Shin, the red string of fate will tie her and the sea god together. And when she realizes that she's realizing that the red string of fate is like freaking out, like something is tugging on it at the other end.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, this was an ambush. You're attacking him while you're
Something's happening.
Something is happening. And he's like, evil villain mode. Ah, we got you.
Yeah.
Me and Lord Tiger are
We
working
work
together.
Oh, who could have seen that coming? It's almost like it was spelled out for us in the beginning of the book.
And she's like, don't worry, Shin will save me. And he does. He like shows up,
Yeah.
fights them. They all fight. They get out of there. Kieran's in trouble for having let her go off on her own.
Mina doesn't come to his aid at all.
No.
Doesn't go. Actually, it was me that wandered away. Nah.
Yeah.
doesn't
No.
care.
She's like, oh, he's yelling at him. And Namgi's like, oh, don't worry. Kieran would feel worse if he didn't yell at him.
Why?
I notoriously love it when people yell at me versus don't yell at me. I guess it's the idea of like, being disappointed in somebody hurts more than just being mad at them. Okay.
He could just do nothing. I don't, whatever.
Awesome. So they're passing by the River of Souls, which she makes a comment. She's like, I kind of remembered hearing it as we were on our way to Crane House, but now I realize it's a big river. Oh, wow. Lord Shiki is in the distance. Like, who is that guy? And they're like, that's the death god, Shiki. And they're like, cool. And she goes, I heard you guys got into a fight. She's like, yeah, dude. Like, I took the last sea god's soul. He, I guess, fell in love with her and at the end of a month wanted her soul back so that they could be together. And I was just focused on protecting the sea god that I didn't let it go. But eventually she intervened, and in her intervention, Mina kind of like spells it for him of like, and then you realize that you were a good friend and you wanted him to be with her. And he's like, yeah, and some thanks I got for it.
I also am just confused of like, if the red string of fate is truly like, well, you start caring about this other person more, then that becomes your red string of fate. Why didn't it move to the like why was it a problem? Because if she got her soul back, it was more than likely that her red string of fate would be tied to Shiki and not the sea god anymore. So what's the problem?
I guess Shin doesn't, because he
doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, he doesn't know the information. He doesn't know the information that
Whatever.
Mina just got from Lord Crane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Okay.
also,
Fair enough. I'm
Fair
not going
enough.
to try to ask too much of this book at this point.
so yeah, he's explaining their fight, and then she finds a cool rock.
It's got a lotus etched into it.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's like,
this message made me laugh because she just bends down, grabs a rock, and is like, "This is your soul."
it's like insane what she's saying, because basically what she's doing is she's like walking on the ground. She goes, "Oh, cool rock." Grabs it, looks at it. Oh, there's a lotus on it, and she's like, "You said you don't have a soul. This is your soul." He's like, "Okay, cool. Thank you for the rock."
Like, is she 16 or is she 6? I don't understand.
That's what I'm saying. And the authors had this is like a beautiful scene, because I can picture this in that Studio Ghibli style of a girl walking down, and like then the camera pans to the river, and in it a glint on a rock, and she goes, "What is that?" And she picks it up, but also this rock doesn't become anything.
No, that's it.
I thought this rock was going to become the pearl that you make a wish on, because they keep mentioning it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a rock that he has now.
No, that's his soul.
That's his soul. Great. Maybe I like misread it, because I truly am just like, where does this rock go? Just part of his collection of like that one random woman's boat and her empty bird cage.
Mystic Music presents Cool Rock.
It's like they're walking down the street. Oh God, now we're in a fight scene. So yeah, the Imugi show up. They start attacking our heroes. Mina's like, what do we do? In the middle of this fight, she's having so many YN moments. And by YN, I mean specifically the Instagram account Wee Wee Piss has a character called YN. And she goes,
Stop.
but I'm serious, she does show up and she goes, stop, no, stop fighting, don't fight. And I'm like, what the hell? This is YN.
What the?
Naturally, they don't stop fighting. Namgi goes into his Imugi form. He's fighting people. And then the two thieves from the beginning of the story, they show up and they're going after Mina. And randomly, these three spirits, Mask, Mickey, and Dai, show up. And they're all in this fight scene that I don't want to explain. I don't think it's very interesting. But yeah, they're throwing Molotov cocktails and what have you. And then a huge goddess shows up. The goddess of moon and memories. And she's killing anybody in her way, her allies or otherwise. She don't gaff.
It made no sense.
She DGA. And they're like, she doesn't care. She's a goddess. She'll kill whoever gets in her way. But basically, she's showing up to try to get at Mina.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm here for you to get you. And Mina's like, oh, dick, I gotta go.
Mina's biggest op.
Mina's biggest op, the goddess of the moon and memories. Because basically she's like, what are you doing in the moon god's palace? What are you doing telling him stories? You're trying to restore him. And as long as he is asleep, I have more power. I have more dominion. So either you get back and get connected to him so I can kill you, or you get out of my way. Like, don't fix this curse. It's better for me when this man is out of the way. So she's trying to get to Mina. I think at one point she's like charging at Mina, but then Dai pushes Mina out of the way, saves her, and then he gets injured.
Yeah, I think he gets injured by an Amugi.
Maybe, I don't know.
He gets like cornered because he's got Miki, and then he like turns away, and he's like
he's protecting Miki. That's what it is.
Yeah.
The fight scenes in this were a little rough.
Yeah.
That's okay. Some people don't have that as a strong
suit. It's like,
suit.
this is happening, and then this is happening, and then, oh no! I was also like whiplash trying to keep track of what's going on.
But yeah, the fight ends. They rush Dai to Lotus House.
Yeah, Kieran, I think, helps him heal up. Yeah,
with his magic blood.
Yep.
The next day, they're all having a good time. Mask is there playing a little game with Kieran and Namgi.
I think it's a Nari and Namgi.
Nari and Namgi. Thank you. Kieran is too serious for this kind of stuff. But Nari, they're just having a good time. She's wandering around Lotus House. I think she plans on like going to the Sea God's palace when she hears Shin shouting. And she goes in and he's having a nightmare. And she like wakes him up and she's like, what was that? And he's like, oh, I had a nightmare. It was really difficult. And then she wants to talk about Crane House, specifically what she learned from Lord Crane.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, did Lord Crane ever get a chance to tell you anything about the Red String of Fate? And Shin looks her dead in the eyes and goes, no. And she kind of has an inkling that he's maybe avoiding a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, well, he kind of told me, and Shin was like, actually, I think I have a fever. I have a fever.
I'm sick, help me.
I'm sick, help me. Basically just cutting that conversation off. He's like, I don't want to admit what's about to happen here, which is you would have to go connect yourself to the sea god.
Yeah.
So instead he's like, can you just stay with me? I feel really bad.
Yeah. And she's like remembering this moment, like, oh, Nari said that they don't get fevers, but she like,
she's like, okay, fine, we'll go along with it, because she's also falling for him too.
Yeah.
And she lays down next to him. He like puts his arm around her. She's like, I can feel his breathing on my neck. And they just take a little nap together.
Yeah.
They have a cute moment, I guess. But it's basically confirmation to her that they both feel the same way about each other.
Yeah.
And neither of them really wants to do, quote unquote, the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, she decides to go to the Sea God's palace because these weird storms are happening. Ooh, now in the spirit realm, crazy storms are happening. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it feels very episodic. Each chapter feels like an episode of something.
Yeah.
And I would watch, I'm sure people would really enjoy the TV show of this, or they would enjoy like the manga of this in like a visual form, because each chapter has its own, beginning, climax, and end.
Yeah.
And so like this chapter ends with them having a cute little nap together. Oh, right. Next chapter. Storms are raging. She's got to go to the Sea God's palace. And she gets to the Sea God's palace. She finds him there awake. And he's like, have you come to tell me another story? And she's like, if that's what you want.
Sure, babe. Whatever you say, babe. Beautiful.
And she tells him the story of this woodcutter. And the story of the woodcutter is essentially, a woodcutter is, walking into the forest one day where he sees two celestial beings taking a bath in the river. 3 sets of wings have been splayed onto a tree. They're basically like taking off their wings, taking a bath. One of them, the third one, comes by and he immediately falls in love with her. And he's like, I want her to stay here. So he steals her wings specifically. Her 2 sisters put their wings on. They leave. She can't. He comes up to her. He comforts her. He's like, hey, babe, I got you. They fall in love with each other. They build a beautiful life together. But he realizes that there is like a deep sorrow in her, that she does want to go back to her sisters, go back to her homeland. And so in realizing that sorrow, even though that they've built a beautiful life together, even though they do love each other, he goes back, digs up the wings that he had hidden, gives them to her, and she returns back home. And when he looks up, he sees an additional star in the sky. Okay.
Yay.
But basically, yeah, it's a story of like, if you love something, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
So she tells him this sad story. The sea god pieces out. She rushes after him, but when she goes outside of the palace wall, the moon goddess is there. And the moon goddess has 2 paper boats in her hand.
Yeah, sure.
She's like, I told you, if I ever see your ass again, I'm going to beat you up. And instead of doing exactly what she just promised, she's like, I have 2 boats. One of them is unfamiliar to Mina. The other one is that boat that we saw that was torn in half and stitched up. And the moon goddess is like,
which one do you want?
Which one do you want? And she says, well, this one, the one that's unfamiliar to her, belongs to maybe somebody that you do know. And she like looks behind Mina, and Mina turns around, and it's Shim Chung. Do you remember Shim Chung?
Oh, barely.
Barely. Yeah, Shim Chung was the girl that was supposed to be sacrificed, and now she's here in the spirit world. And I reread this part like 400 times because the moon goddess just goes away.
There's so many motivations where I'm like, I don't understand why this happened. I don't understand why you did that.
A woman who was like, if I saw you again, I'm going to kill you. Instead
Caesar
goes,
again is like, here's
the paper boat for the girl right behind you. And then Mina turns around, which tactically poor move.
Yeah.
I would have stabbed her right.
I would have taken out my great-grandmother's knife. I would have taken out my great-grandmother right in her bed.
Yeah. But yeah, Mina turns around and is like, Shim Chung, what are you doing here? And Shim Chung's like, hey girl, things did not go well.
Hell.
And then the moon goddess is gone. The goddess of moon and memory.
She went, I'm moonbeam ice cream and out of here.
I kept rereading that to be like, did they say where she went? But she just vanished.
I don't know. Yeah.
She's like, here's this person's wish, goodbye, whatever. So,
why?
Yeah. So apparently what happened is when Mina was sacrificed, for a very short amount of time, the storms were gone. But then suddenly the storms were back, even worse.
Yeah.
They were 100 times worse this time around. And they were like, oh, it's because the sea god is really, really angry that we gave him the wrong goddess. So Shim Chung, I guess in this time frame, married June, which you pointed out.
Less than a month.
Less than a month. But you also pointed out, like, this man's sister jumped off the boat in front of him. And his thing was,
let's get married.
Let's get married, babe.
His beloved sister.
We can't let her sacrifice go in vain.
Yeah, babe, we gotta get married right now.
Yeah, because Shim Chung married June. They were together. But the villagers were like, it doesn't matter. We have to throw you overboard. I guess her, Mina's grandmother put a fight. Shim Chung was saying, like, your grandmother was the one who protected me the most.
Yeah.
Not my husband, but your grandma. So Shim Chung got sacrificed, and now she's down here too. So Mina's like, okay, cool story, bro. I'm gonna go back into the palace now.
Yeah.
It's so much whiplash where she's like, I'm leaving the palace and I'm gonna go back into the palace. She goes back into the palace. She sees the sea god. He's having another like bad memory. Again, it's like memories of war, of like a cliff sides, of burning cities. And when they leave the memory, she's like, what was that about? And he goes, you're not the one asking the questions here. I asked the questions here. That was so funny. I was like, okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Chill. So yeah, he confronts her and he's like, why do you keep telling me sad ass stories? And I think this is what you're right. It's like his emotions obviously are what feed the storms. I'm assuming the storms are getting worse because he has strong feelings about these sad stories she keeps telling him.
And she's like, let me tell you one more sad story.
And she's like, he's like, these are stories. She says, these are stories meant to show you that like belief and hope is still out there. And he's like, well, no one believes in me. And she goes, I believe in you. And he goes, get out. So he kicks her out of the palace.
Francine, can I ask you a question? Sure, anything. Why don't you go back to your own house and stop bothering us?
After she leaves the palace, she meets up with Kiran, Shin, and Namgi. They go back to Lotus House. The storms are really, really bad. So they're all like, okay, what are we going to do about these storms?
Yeah.
This is worse than ever. They've never come to the spirit world. Basically, they always ravage the human world, but the spirit world doesn't deal with this. So now it's our problem too. And
yeah. And then, well, they were saying too, because the storms are so bad that like the river, which is a river comprised of like human souls, is like gonna like flood, which is not good.
Very bad. She's not having a good time.
No.
They do mention they're like, he's scrambling around trying to figure out what to do. It's like hurricane warning.
Yeah. She's just like, isn't he supposed to like this? He's the god of death. And there's like so many people who have died. And they're like, no, it makes everything unbalanced and weird.
Yeah, it's not good for anybody if this happens. And on her way, when she's at Lotus House, she takes a second to look at the wish on the boat, Shim Chung's wish. And she's kind of expecting the wish to be, I hope that I am the sea god's bride, or I hope that I'm not the sea god's bride, or I hope June marries me. Yeah.
Or I hope the storms stop.
I hope the storms stop. But the wish that Shim Chung writes down is, I hope my father is okay. I hope that he'll be content and fine without me. Yeah. Which is really beautiful and goes back to the ethos of the original folktale of the tale of Shim Chung. It's a pious and filial daughter who is doing all the things she can to just make sure her blind, wonderful father is taken care of.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mina is like really moved by the fact that Shim Chung's wish is for her father of all things. And then we move on. They're having a meeting in the house. I believe it's like Nari and Mask, Miki, Dai, Namgi, Kieran, Shin. They're all trying to figure out what they need to do. And Mina is the only one to bring up, hey, I found out this information from Lord Crane. If I make a stronger connection with the sea god, I will then reconnect that red string of fate. And that will potentially, work in my favor.
Yeah. And Kieran's like, she's expecting like backlash of like, everyone's made fun of her for like
believing in this,
being like, I'm gonna be the sea god's bride. And at this point, Kieran's like, well, you're the only sea god's bride who's been able to even talk to him. So yeah, maybe you are actually the true sea god's bride.
Right, exactly. Shin says something mean. I didn't write what it was down, but he's basically just like, you really think that this could be you? Basically just being a dick because he feels bad. He doesn't want her to leave him.
Yeah.
So instead of communicating, he lashes out.
Any teenage boy would do.
Yeah. And he says something like, a girl like you still have these like ambitions about being the sea god's bride. And even though in that moment she knows he's only saying it because he himself is hurt, she runs out of the house and then assassins attack her. And then immediately she's taken back to Lotus House, which, okay,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, because she got shot in the shoulder or whatever. Oh, because in the battle that happened where she got like the Mugi came down and we see the goddess of moon and memory for the first time, the like bear assassin attacks her and they like blow him up with fireworks or something, very Mulan style.
Oh yeah.
Like stick a sword in his like cloak or whatever, but the weasel looking assassin is still out there and he gets her with his crossbow.
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of rush through this next part because I was like, what are we doing here? Yeah. So she leaves. The assassins attack her. She's basically kind of dying. They take her back to Lotus House. Her spirit is like floating. Her soul is floating above her. She can see what's happening, but she's like not in her body. And while her soul is floating, she like realizes if she goes a little higher, she can probably go to heaven. And then she hears a voice singing the same song, the Dragon Pearl song, and she's like, okay, so I floated back down to my body, and great, she's alive now. She's like in a weakened state, but she's alive now.
Yeah.
And when she looks at her hand, the red string of fate is gone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, it's like we have this whole montage of all these people coming in and visiting her and whatever, and then that all happens. And
I guess near death or like technically dying.
This pissed me off too. I don't remember which ancestor talked to her while she was in this state, but it was just like, if you just believe hard enough,
do you believe in life after love?
Dreams will come true. I'm hitting her with a brick.
A lot of the consistencies in world building and mythology don't exist here. And I think it's part of the frustration of like, I don't need you to do a huge info dump and give me the rule set of what's going on here, but I need you to be at least a little consistent. Because why? So the red string of fate no longer ties her to Shin, but does that imply then that she doesn't have like, it would be one thing if in her heart she went, oh, I'm done with him now. I'm done with him forever. But she didn't do that. She was like, I still love him. I still care about him.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So I have no idea. I just, for the plot convenience, there's no red string of fate. Shim Chong decides to visit her too.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And she finds out that the storms have ended. A festival is going to start because the storms have ended. And Shim Chong's like, yeah, you did it. You did it, girl. You made it happen. She's like, wait.
Off, slay, boss queen.
The boss queen. And I wanted to go, why did getting assassinated make the storms end? And she's skeptical. She's like, I don't know if I did anything.
Yeah, but they can't confirm for like another year.
Right, exactly. It's like, well, another year has to pass before we see the storms come up again. I don't get in the logic of the world if him being lonely or if his emotions, are tied to the storms, if that's what we're assuming here, wouldn't her potentially dying make them worse?
Mm-hmm. No.
I too can just make up a bunch of
I'm doing it right now.
I'm doing it right now.
I'm gonna start lying.
But yeah, the storms have just ended for some reason. There's no red string of fate. Storms have ended. Ever since she woke up out of her coma, Shin hasn't visited her.
No.
So she's wandering the streets during this festival, and then she sees Shen, and he's like, come on, let's go have a chat. Let's go have a walk. They walk together, and it's basically this big confession where he's like, I really didn't want you to. He's just went at that. Well, no, that's the wrong song. That's the wrong song. But yeah, he's basically just saying like, I really care about you. I really want to be with you. Why don't the two of us be together? Like, I know I'm just like a lowly god, and I'm like kind of the god of nothing, but the way I feel about you, I'm kind of propositioning her, saying like, I know you want to return back to your family, but like if you could see a life with me. And before he can get to that part, the Imugi attack.
You haven't seen The Last of Us, baby.
Yeah, no. So they're attacking. Another fight scene happens. I think it's this fight that Kieran turns into a Kieran.
Yes. Because like Namgi gets his shit rocked and is like dying. Also, I have such a problem with this as well. Another inconsistency of like, they kind of say, and maybe like it only applies to spirits, whereas like Namgi is a beast of myth, so maybe the rules are different.
Mm-hmm.
But they say if you die here, there's no more. Like, this is the end of the line.
Yeah.
Yet Namgi dies, and they are able to pull his soul out of like the River of Souls. Like, Kieran's able to walk on the River of Souls for some reason, and like dip his neck down so that like Namgi can cling to him, and that's fine. Even though we just said, not just said, but you know, earlier
we were explained that like this is like the end of it.
If you die here, you're dead.
Yeah, we didn't go into that, but like during a fight scene, she went, "What happens to all these spirits that you just killed?" And they're like, well, they're gone. And like, yeah, so in this fight, Kieran becomes a Kieran, Namgi dies. They make a quick pit stop after the fight to go to the River of Souls. But during the fight, the goddess of moon and memories shows up again.
Who could have guessed?
Who could have guessed? And this time she's saying like, I will take this memory of yours, the paper boat memory, because she can't see what the memory or
this part made no sense to me.
Oh my god, I'm having a hard time explaining it. Okay, so goddess of moon and memory has a paper boat, and we know that paper boat belongs to Mina because she recognizes it.
Yeah,
and the goddess of moon and memory is like, you made this wish. If you give me this wish, I will then call off my Imugi and call off the attack. The idea being, because she's the goddess of memory, whatever memory or like desire or want is tied to this paper boat will vanish from Mina. And the goddess is expecting this wish to be, I want to be the sea god's bride.
Why?
Because I guess she is. Like, I don't know. I guess the assumption is every sea god's bride that's sacrificed wanted to be the sea god's bride, or was hoping to be the sea god's bride, or something like that. Or maybe it's because Mina has been really trying to fix the sea god, so she's like, I think maybe you really wanted this to happen for yourself.
Sure, I guess.
So but yeah, basically she makes this weird assumption that Mina wanted to be the sea god's bride, wish that this would happen for her, and then is like, well, if I get this wish from you, then that desire will go away, and my plans are fine. Mm-hmm. You are thwarted. And Mina's like, fine, go ahead, because Mina knows what's in that. And you want to know what the wish is? I'm like trying to remember what it was.
I can't even remember what it was.
I know the backstory behind it. We got a good flashback about it.
Yeah.
Basically, we have this memory of Mina breaking apart a shrine for the goddess of women and children because her sister-in-law's daughter has died in childbirth. Basically, her niece died.
Yeah.
And she was like, I made this wish, I think, for my niece. I wanted her to be born well
healthy,
or proper, healthy. Do you mind just like taking a quick look at it?
I can see if I can.
I'm like trying to think what the actual wish was, because the memory was more important than the wish. And I'm sure they said it, but I truly cannot recall what it is. But yeah, the wish is basically tied to her niece being born healthy. And because that wish didn't come true, Mina went to the shrine, ripped apart that paper boat, and was just really angry with the gods. And the goddess of moon and memory is like, you tricked me. That had nothing to do with the sea god. But then also she's like sad and upset to know that that's what Mina's wish was, and that it didn't come true, and that her niece died. We get a little bit of compassion from the goddess of moon and memory. But we don't have time for that, okay? Because
okay, so I don't know. It doesn't really fully say, like, it goes out, like, it goes through that story about her niece.
Okay.
And, like, her destroying the thing, and then, like, she feels really guilty, and whatever, she like, you know, is looking at all the offerings that are laid out on the shrine that she like destroyed. And then, you know, she basically is just like, every year I make the same wishes, a good harvest, health for my family and loved ones. But this year I brought the boat home to the place on the shrine because I wanted nothing between the goddess and my prayer. And then I tore the thing in half. So I'm assuming.
So yeah, I think so. Maybe there wasn't actually like a actual wish that she made, as in it like words on the paper.
I don't know.
But the general gist of this wish is, I want my niece to be born healthy and well.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, we get a little bit of sympathy from the goddess of moon and memories.
Why? Huh?
Because it would be one thing if we got the understanding that whenever the goddess like takes in someone's memories, she feels them, which also could be incredible in terms of her being so cold to people, being like, I cannot indulge in any more of your feelings. Like, I already experienced so much from you humans.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to protect myself, I keep a really cold demeanor. Like, what a cool interpretation of a goddess. So none of that. She just is kind of nice. And then this is where we get, you know, Namgi dies.
Yep. Bye.
Kieran gets him back. And then this was so confusing. At one point, though, the Imugi start chasing Mina. And then the dragon shows up.
It's like she's also at the river with them, and and because like Namgi has not yet like been dragged out of the river, she's like worried like, oh, if they attack Kieran while he's trying to get Namgi's
she's
soul
like,
out of
I'm
the
a
river.
distraction.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So she distracts these Imugi. They chase after her. The dragon shows up.
Sure.
The sea god's dragon.
At this point, anything could happen. I'd be like, yeah, okay.
Okay. The Imugi are thrown off. They go away.
They get killed, like a one-shot killed, all of them.
Yeah,
by
the
this
dragon. And then the sea god is there now too.
Yeah.
And he goes to Mina being like, you're my bride. We should be together. And Shin shows up and is like, no!
That's my woman!
I love her. I want to be with her. And him and the sea god get into an argument, basically. Over this girl and Mina is in the middle being like, guys, don't fight over me. And so Mina's like, I have to do the right thing. Like, she's looking at Shin like, I gotta do the right thing. I need to go back with the sea god and I need to be with him. And this is where I thought the book was gonna kind of end. Like, we were close to the end of like,
no,
in doing the right thing and choosing the sea god, I don't know, the sea god will see that she makes a sacrifice for him and realizes like, no, this isn't the right thing. And then him and Shin become one, or they kiss. And him and Shin go
whatever way.
Yeah, because let's be honest, at this point, we all kind of know that Shin is.
They're one and the same.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's very Spirited Away. Spirited Away. I am Haku. Oh, I got my memories back. I'm actually the river spirit Haku.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, yeah, okay, that's what's happening here. But that does not happen yet. Instead, Mina's like, I need to make this bond back with the sea god. And so she goes back to the sea god's palace. And we have another 2 hours of this book left. So she's hanging out in the sea god's palace. And he asks for another story. And now we get the original folktale. A little different than what I was reading on a few different sites on the internet. But the gist of this story is that there used to be a blind farmer named Shim something.
Yep.
Okay. And it's important because Shim Chung is the only one who keeps being referred to by both her surname and her first name.
Yeah.
So it's really relevant that like, yeah, that's her story.
Yep.
We're borrowing her folktale. But essentially there's a blind man who really loves his daughter and really cares for her. And in this version of the story, the sea god is raging and is really, really upset. And the village knows that in order to appease him, they have to give him a bride. And Shim Chung is like, well, we are a poor family and I want to make sure that my father is set for life. So in exchange for like 30 bags of rice, I will give myself up to be the sea god's bride. And so the villagers accept. They throw her into the sea. She goes and becomes a sea god's bride. She lives down there for a while. But eventually the sea god realizes that she's really sad. She's not happy here. And so he allows her to return up to the human realm. There she meets an emperor, and the emperor falls in love with her because she's so beautiful and so wonderful. And she marries the emperor. And in this story, we're hearing it kind of from her father's point of view because the father spends all of his days like searching the land for her, wanting his daughter back. And
Yeah.
people are willing to like take him in, but he goes, no, like I need to go find my father. One day the emperor hosts like a banquet for all the blind children, men, women in the nation. He attends it, and in attending it, he hears his daughter's voice, and she goes, Dad, it's me. I'm here. And they live happily ever after. Sure. Okay, so yeah, she tells the story of Shim Chung. And then she falls asleep. It's like she says this story and then immediately falls asleep. It's like an enchanted sleep, but the way it's written is so jarring. The story ends and then she fell into sleep. And when she woke up, the red string of fate was attached to her again.
For what reason?
And she's
Not
excited.
a
She's like,
clue.
back to Shin. And then she runs, and no, it's tied to the sea god. So I guess in her heart, she wanted it to be Shin, but that doesn't really matter because the plot needs it to be the sea god.
Yeah, even though it was blatantly stated that if you have a stronger connection with someone else, it'll go to that person. It doesn't matter.
And every time we say stronger connection, I think of Love is Blind. I have a stronger connection with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because it's not like in her heart or in her soul she has forsaken Shin and now her tie is to the sea god.
I almost wish when she went to Lord Crane and she was like talking about this, it was just like, it didn't have anything to do with emotions. It just had to do with duty, because then this would make sense of like, even though my emotions are stronger towards Shin, my duty is to like free my people of these storms.
And I guess Lord Crane technically does say that. He's like, people with a strong duty or something like that.
Does, but he's also like, you still have to love each other.
Yeah. You're right.
So it doesn't really make sense.
Mm-mm. And I think too, it like mentally, even if you recognize like this is what I'm supposed to do and that's right, if in your heart you still love another and feel a stronger connection to another, that shouldn't count then. But in this book it does, because whatever. And she lives with him now. I wrote that down. She's like hanging out at the sea god's palace for a while. She does tell him, she's like, hey man, I kind of want to go see my friends, the other sea god's bride. So she goes over to Star House and she's hanging out with Hyeri, if you don't remember, that's the death god's bride, and Shim Chung. Shim Chung's just hanging out there too, and they have just like a girl combo. What do you think? How do you think you're gonna solve the problem?
Yeah, and I can't remember at what point. I think it was when the like river starts to flood. They talk about how like she is like the best course of action to get more information would be for Mina to go talk with her ancestors.
Yeah.
So that's also part of her like thing. But she's like chatting with them, like, how do I get there? Or like, you know, we're trying to get Shim Chung back up to the surface, like back to the human world. And like my ancestors might know about that. So I want to go visit them.
Because she also makes a thing of like, well, technically they're your ancestors now too.
Well, Harry's like, do you have any ancestors?
To Shim Chung.
And Shim Chung goes, just my dad, and he's alive. And then Harry goes, oh, that sucks. And then Mina has to be like, well, she married my brother, so my ancestors. And here he goes, oh my God, yeah.
But then Shim Chung doesn't go. Mina's like, but you stay here. I'll go instead. And I was like, what was the point of this whole thing? Why couldn't you? What could have cut Shim Chung out of the equation? It could have just been Hyeri, who has been living with the death god, being like, there's a lot of wisdom that comes from generations past.
You don't have to go to Star House at all.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, Mina already knows she can go talk to her ancestors. It could just be, hey, sea god, I want to go talk to my ancestors. How do I get there? Why are we doing this at all?
Why are we doing this at all? So they go. So as soon as she leaves Star House, Shin, Namgi, and Kieran are just there.
Yeah.
For some reason, they're just loitering about. These just
walking
around like they're just there. Like, we knew you would be at this house. Sup, dude? Sup, girl? Sup, girl? What do you want?
Hey.
That's really the vibe I got here, because why are they just?
Yeah.
They're like, we know you wanted to go to see your ancestors, so we're here now. And I went, how?
How do you know she's at Star House right now?
Right now. How do you know any of this shit?
And then it's like, oh, yay, Namgi's alive. Because she was like, the last I saw you, it was Kieran getting your soul out of the river.
They take her to another house, but it's basically like the ministry for you to meet your ancestors. She goes there.
Yeah.
Excuse me. She goes, hey guys, I'm here to meet my ancestors. They go, great. We're going to take you to this room. They're going to be there. Can you guess? Can you guess who her ancestors are?
there?
I'm gonna give you. Do you pause this video and in the comment section, if you can accurately guess which of the remaining characters might be her ancestors, I will do nothing for you.
You'll be right.
You'll be so right. And if you guessed it's Mask, Miki, and Dai,
You're wrong.
you completely misunderstood what this is about. No, yeah. So walk in Mask, Miki, and Dai. Mask is her great grandmother. And this whole time she's called Mask because she's wearing an old woman's mask.
Yeah, a grandmother's mask.
She takes that mask off, and her face looks very similar, almost exactly identical to Mina's face, and that's why she's wearing the mask. Because Mina, if Mina had seen her, she would have immediately recognized.
And that would have been a problem for some reason.
Yeah, why?
They're like, we can't interfere. Why?
Why not? Because you have been.
You're dead already. Like,
Dai is her grandfather. Miki is the niece that she has been so mournful over.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, you can make a wish with a pearl.
Yes! God, I would throw my clipboard if I wasn't worried that I'd hit my dog by accident. Okay. Last night when I was like listening to like the end of this book, I kept not realizing I was doing this out loud, being like, are you kidding me? And then again, my boyfriend would walk in and go, are you okay? Is something happening? I'm like, I just hate this. This is pissing me off. Because we have got the stupid song that she constantly sings about the dragon with the pearl that you make a wish for. We've got the mural with the dragon and the pearl. We've got another character who explicitly says you could make a wish on a dragon's pearl. So then, do we really need them to remind us that she needs to get the dragon's pearl?
Well, because then she's like, where can I find one? And they're like, well, the sea god's dragon. But we don't know where his pearl went. And like, that's all they can tell her. Like, try to find his pearl. We have no idea where it could be.
This is another thing where throughout the book, like, it is kind of, because this is a very predictable story, it's kind of immediate to you. And maybe it's because we read a lot of books. Maybe we can pick up on these patterns because we've read a lot of these types of stories. But like, I would rather, even though it's obvious, her or them, meaning the author, have left little clues. Like if Mina was like, I just feel an immediate sense of comfort when I'm with these people. It feels like being with family. Like any sort of like breadcrumb to lead us to this. But there is no at all hint or foreshadowing that these guys are her ancestors. And so when they show up, like I know the author's trying to go, what a fun, cool plot twist. But I'm going, you could tell me anybody was her ancestor at this point.
But also it's obvious. Mask is literally wearing a grandmother's mask.
Mm-hmm.
Your niece died as a baby. They have a baby. Your grandfather died. All three of these people are hanging out together. Duh. Like,
again, like them being like, I don't want to, we can't interfere. Why not? Like them saying, I am your ancestor at the beginning of the story does not change anything. Like them keeping that secret hidden doesn't affect the story at all.
No.
If she had known who they were from the beginning, nothing would have changed.
Also, she's already in the spirit world. So like what consequence is there for you, quote unquote, interfering?
If anything, it would have been more interesting for her to be like, wow, I heard incredible stories about you growing up. And like, can I have any advice? And they're all weird and cryptic. And you go, you as a spirit kind of suck. You know, like anything more interesting than just, we are here to sort of give you a little bit of backstory, motivate you, and maybe have an action fight scene with you.
Or like, you know, apparently we're being told, being as a storyteller, what if it's like, until you figure out who we are, we can only talk in stories or riddles of some sort. And and like, we're trying to help you, but you need to like decode these things.
I would have loved to read
like,
that.
What the
like these two, I guess two because Miki's just a baby, but like these two weird cryptic spirits who keep following her and keep sort of helping her out, but like not in any way that she can meaningfully understand. And until she can figure out who they are, then they can go, you finally figured it out. We're
already doing the Spirited Away thing. They could just be No Face in this like instance, like a parallel of that character almost.
Figure out which pig is your parent, and then they come back. You know, figure out which spirit is relevant to you as a person, and they can tell you how to solve the mystery. But yeah, it's like she has this moment with them, and they go, "Yay, we did it! We are your ancestors." And it's also just she had to go to
a specific like it's like, hey, you need to like go through like the DMV.
I really felt like that. Like, okay, we the spirit DMV, and now you can see your ancestors.
There's a protocol to follow, babe.
But they were already hanging out with her the whole time. It was such a boring reveal. It
Yeah.
was so boring. So
Yeah.
yeah, she like talks to her ancestors. And then after that interaction with them, the red string of fate is going buck wild.
Also, there's so many instances where it's like it's moving around, but there's also instances of the red string of fate changing colors, and there's no explanation for why that is. Like to me, I thought like, oh, it'd be so cool if it was like the lighter, the paler the string gets, the like more likely it is that it's going to sever. No.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, there would be like it looked blood red in this instant, or like it looked shimmery pink.
Oh, okay. I thought that was just bad description. Yeah, you're right. I thought for a second you meant like it was blue.
Oh no, just like varying
shades of red. And yeah, it would have been more interesting if it was like the severity of their connection was reflected in the color of the string,
or like the strength. Yeah.
But I know I just thought it was like a bad description. They were like tired of calling it the red string of fate, so they were like,
pink now.
It's the pink string of possibility,
duty,
of duty. So yeah, the red string of fate is like it's being tugged on, and it's like something's happening on the other end. So she runs. This is the part where I was like starting to very vocally be like, "This sucks." And yeah, my boyfriend was checking out on me because she goes to the palace, and then she's like, "The sea god, are you okay? Yeah, okay. Do you trust me? Yeah, great." She leaves. She goes. She goes. And then she leaves and she goes to the Lotus house and she's like, Shin! And Shin's like, hey man, I love you. And she's like, yeah, I love you too. Do you trust me? Yeah. She leaves. I'm like, what is happening here?
Why did you have to get this confirmation?
Yeah. And then she goes to the memory goddess. Sorry, the goddess of moon and memory. And instead of beating her, this goddess is like, so what do you want from me? Like, why are you here? And she's like, I need you to show me a very specific memory. And it's the memory of Shin and the sea god. Did they do an exchange? I don't think so.
It's because like she was like, oh well, when she like the goddess of moon and memory was just like, you're going to offer your boat wish to me willingly, and I'll like take the Amugi away. She didn't take the Amugi away.
Oh right, so she owes her. That's what it was. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did write that down. I was like, and the Moogies stayed there. Yeah, so exactly. So she owes her. She owes a favor. So she's like, can you give me the memory of the sea god and Shin? Because she has a suspicion that something's going on. A suspicion that we as people, it's not fair because obviously she never watched Spirited Away. And we did. But we have already suspected it. So we get a flashback. And in this flashback, we see this emperor that I haven't talked about too much in this plot, but it gets like thrown in so many times as there is this emperor who like went missing years and years and years ago. And he was the thing that kind of united all of the various warring clans. And after he left, war ensued, chaos happened.
Yeah. It was like the emperor was killed. Like he was like usurped by like a Western
Faction.
dude, and like that's what pissed the sea god off in the first place because he really loved the emperor.
Right. The emperor was his big time homie. You were
he
saying
was like a brother, but I was like, huh, gay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so we get the scene where the emperor seems dying in battle. Like a huge battle ensues. The emperor gets hit. All of his generals are like, get the hell out of here. You're important to us. And he's like, no, I will stay and I'll fight with my people. And he's really intense about it. And then he gets hit in the air, like by an arrow or something like that. It's kind of fatal. He's climbing up to the top of this cliff, and at it, a dragon shows up. The sea god is there. The sea god is Shin. Like, did you guess that? Did you guess
I
that?
could have never seen it coming.
Yeah, no. So yeah, Shin is there as the sea god. And this part made me laugh out loud, and I feel really bad because somebody next to me was sleeping. But the emperor goes, I know who you are. You're the person that protects my family. And I was told that if ever something was to happen to me, you would show up to protect me. Shin says something, and then he goes, so who are you? You not? He literally goes, so who are you? And I'm just imagining that little blonde kid that's like, wait a minute, who are you?
Wait a minute. Who are you?
You were telling me, yeah, I know who you are. I know that you're gonna come to help me, but who the fuck are you? And Shin goes, I am the sea god, and I really care deeply about you for reasons unexplained.
Make a wish,
and I will give you one wish. And the Emperor's wishes, like, save my life.
I want to live.
I want to live.
How does this translate into, let me do a little swapsies with you. Let me make you the sea god.
Okay, here's my issue. One, this is not a curse. This is just a really awkward situation that they got themselves into. Because what we find out, it's like sort of poorly explained, but we find out that basically Shin gave his soul to the Emperor. That's why the Emperor is assumed to be the sea god, and that's why the dragon stays with the Emperor.
Yeah,
because,
I didn't pick that up at all.
Yeah.
I was like, the
No. His soul is in the form of a dragon. Like how all their souls are in the form of a spirit animal.
Yeah.
So he gives that dragon to the Emperor. So now the Emperor is like part sea god, and they both I guess, like lose their memories for some reason.
Sure, why not?
Okay, so that's not really a curse, which is fine. I'm being pedantic about a technicality. But then why does a woman have to get involved in this at all?
Why bring in a woman?
There is a moment in the story where they explain that an emperor, not this emperor, but eventually an emperor who loved his daughter a lot, sacrificed her for some reason.
It was the usurper, basically, of like, things continue to get worse and worse and worse. And it was like, I can't remember why it was, but they were like, you need to sacrifice someone you truly love. And the only person he truly loved was his daughter.
Right. And then after he did that, the storms went away for a year.
Why?
But this is what I'm saying, of like, if this curse is because somebody gave up their soul in exchange to protect somebody else, then the reverse of that, or like the solution to it, should be like, and I gave up my soul. Like I gave my soul in place of whatever, or something to do with that.
Right.
It shouldn't just be, I was the true bride. What are you talking about?
And if that were true, it would make everything make sense, right? Because it's like, if the whole thing is like, it's not supposed to be you sacrifice the person you care the most about, but you sacrifice yourself for the person you care most about.
Yes.
Then Mina being the one that like breaks the curse or whatever is able to solve this makes sense, because she gave herself up for her brother June, who she cared the most about.
Right. It shouldn't have been like, we selected a bride for you. It should have been, exactly. I gave up something. I gave up myself for the people that I care about.
Yeah.
Which I guess doesn't make sense, because I guess that implies that 98, 99 other women did not care about anybody but themselves. But this was so unsatisfying to me to find out that the whole situation was just this guy now has Shin's soul, and that's what made him the sea god. Again, back to it. It's like, then what does the bride have to do with anything? Why does he have to get married?
Yeah.
Why does he have to get married at all?
I don't know.
There's no reasoning for it, no explanation.
Nope.
And in a folk tale from like 1,000 years ago, I'm not asking anything of that. In a modern day retelling of a folk tale written by an author who does not technically have a page limit, I am asking that of them.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be an info dump the way that this author has been doing it. But I need to have some sort of understanding or some sort of semblance. When we talk about what Beauty and the Beast, there is a reason that the inverse of like undoing the beast curse comes from true love, is because that means you can look past this ugly animal. And I mean, that's the whole point, right? He's like this grotesque monster, and you can look past that and love the person underneath physical features.
Yeah.
That's not what's happening here.
No.
It was really, really upsetting to find out that's what happened.
Yeah.
So then she goes back to Shin. Oh no, before that, your favorite part. She gives some pretty solid advice to the goddess of moon and memory. A 16-year-old girl is like, there's a better way to get power if you really want it. Humans love you. And the goddess of women and children is,
you should kill her.
She sucks. So if you start taking on her wishes and start doing that for humans, they'll love you and adore you, and they'll give you all this. It is
also, plot twist. Mina got lost in the forest one time when she was a little girl, and that's why she's scared of the darkened forest. And she was let out of the forest by a beam of moonlight.
Moonbeam ice cream.
And it was the goddess of moon and memories doing. By the way, as if that mattered to the story at all.
Why is this goddess helping out some random?
Yeah, but
why does it take a 16-year-old girl to point out to any god that if you grant some of these humans' wishes, they will adore you?
I was so pissed.
That's weird to me.
I was so pissed.
Is the implication, like, here's what I thought it was going, and you can tell me if this is a stupid idea, but I thought it was just as long as the sea god did not have a bride or was like under this sleep spell, storms would rage and the connection between gods and humans would be severed. And like and maybe gods are just like, yeah, my power is waning, but I got less responsibility. Like it's a give and take or something there.
Yeah.
But it's just they can still be gods and they can still do their job. They just don't really want to. Like I don't get.
Also, I love that the solution is like, let's kill him to get his power. In her like instance of like the goddess of moon and memory, why wasn't it like, I'll become your bride and we'll share your power? Like, wouldn't that make a little bit more sense than it's like, I'm seeing people trying to constantly like, you know, kill him and it's not going well. Maybe I try a different approach. But it's also just like, yeah, there are other gods and goddesses that like, yeah, sure, the sea god is like the big honcho, but it's like if you're really just looking for more power, it doesn't have to be that complicated.
In instances like this, like it's a YA novel, so our protagonist has to be just extraordinary and be giving incredible advice, obvious advice to these gods. But I would have rather it be a like technical difficulty for this goddess to obtain power and not just, well, have you just thought about doing it in a nice and good way and doing it a little different? It's also funny because it's the implication that moon and memories is not tangible, but if you just help people from childbirth, what were you doing this whole time?
I don't.
There's a reason you're a goddess. There's a reason you're a goddess of moon and memories. That is relevant to humans. Otherwise,
But Mina mentions like, oh, I'm not familiar with the goddess of moon and memory. Like we don't like acknowledge her, which is weird because you see the moon.
There's so many moon gods.
Like, I don't understand. And maybe that's it of like, there's other moon gods to pray to and that's who they like recognized and like remembered and not her. But like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
It's just a weird like, hey, by the way, give this a shot. And then she runs off.
And then she walks off.
Yeah, she runs off. She goes back to
Shin?
Yeah, she does. She goes back to Lotus House. Namgi and Kieran are there. Shin has got his memory back. So they're kind of like, we're at the climax of the story. We're not, dude. We're not at all. And here's what, again, my dumb ass was like, oh, we're almost done. Yeah,
I keep leaning my head against it.
If you were interested in hearing about us talk about how we thrifted these decorations, we're gonna do a Patreon. Like this month's Patreon episode is about all of the stuff that we have thrifted and sourced, and we're Chicago based, so it's kind of about like where we got that and some of our tips on how do you decorate and thrift stuff because we're big thrifters.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that later.
Just back to the story.
Plug to our Patreon. But yeah, Namgi and Kieran are there, and they're very generic. Like, you're amazing, and I'll care about you deeply, and Mina, and we're friends. And Kieran's like, you know what? You're not so bad after all. Okay, great. And they never show up again, so don't worry about them.
Yeah, irrelevant.
Okay, so she finds Shin. Shin is like, now you know who I am truly. I didn't understand if he had his memories the whole time and he couldn't tell her, or he just didn't have his memories. I think he didn't have his memories, but the way he phrased that was like, now you actually know who I am. It made it seem as though he...
Well, I feel like he had to have known because like, why was he so emo about like... But I don't know.
How can I be the god of something I don't believe in? Which feels weird because how do you not believe in the ocean?
It's supposed to be like, I don't believe in myself. That's better. That's wait.
That's me being stupid. I'm so sorry. That makes way more sense. Yeah, I don't believe in myself. But also, that's not oh my God, I'm crying. But that's not what happened here. It's not that he lost belief in himself. It's not like he went, humans are polluting the ocean, and I've lost faith in humanity, and I've lost faith in my own ability to be there for the people I care about and protect. So I will give up my right as a sea god to you. Like, let's swap places. They're not
Sure.
doing like a Prince and the Pauper thing.
Yeah.
So what the hell are you talking about? Sorry, I spit a little bit
Once
there.
again,
Oh my God.
not a clue.
Not a clue, but he's like, yeah, now you know who I truly am. And they're having a conversation where he realizes and she knows that if she makes a wish upon a dragon's pearl, the dragon shows up and is like, here's a pearl for you.
Yeah.
Which,
Absolutely no strife or like no struggle to get that.
no, I thought that dumbass rock that she gave him would become the dragon's pearl because technically the dragon is his soul. And she's like, this is your soul now. So he's like, this thing that is of the dragon, that is of my soul, becomes a pearl. No, that I don't know where that rock went. What the hell?
I don't know.
No, that would have been, I would have been more satisfied with that. But no, the dragon just shows up and gives her a pearl.
Yeah, of course. She did nothing to deserve it, but yeah.
So she has this pearl now and she can make a wish. And she goes, well, if I wish to have you and the emperor go back to your rightful places, I think this will fix everything. And he's like, yeah, but if you do that, you will go back home. You will return back to the world and we can't be together. And it breaks her heart. She's like, I do want to be with you. Why? I don't care. Like, I think he's hot.
And he's been kind of nice to me.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, it's a YA romance, so I guess it's just I'm a teen girl and I have a lot of strong feelings about this.
Again, I thought this was going to feed into the like her assumptions about spirits and gods and whatever versus his assumptions about humans, and that her kind of like coming to realize like, oh no, you're actually not so different from myself. It's just that our struggles are like almost in the reverse or something like that. But like,
Right.
no, nah.
Or both of them coming to terms with the fact that they do need each other.
Yeah. Or like if she has this idea in her head of like gods don't care about humans, and then he's doing all these little things to show her he does care about her, and like maybe just doesn't have the power to actually do anything to help her human world or whatever. It's like this real, yeah, whatever.
If she had started off nihilistic, like we had talked about in the beginning, and
Yeah.
she ends with being like, this is a balance. Like Shiki being there then makes sense because she would
Mhm.
assume like, well, wouldn't the death god want there to be more death? And it's like, well, actually, no,
No.
balance is really important. And by the end of it, she's like, I've restored my faith in the gods because you did that to me. And that whole like, like I don't believe in myself. Well, she believes in you because you've proven, that you are a good god and you're
Yeah.
something good to believe in, and vice versa, where he's like, you've restored my faith in humanity.
Right.
It's these two beings from different worlds like coming together over that.
Mhm.
No, she
Yeah.
always believed in the gods. She had like one moment where she had a tantrum about the goddess of women and children, rightfully, because that woman is crazy.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like her faith in them wasn't ever really challenged. Like even after that incident, she has like a moment of being upset over it.
Yeah.
But she's still like, I believe in you, see God. So yeah, they I
Sure.
guess are in love. And she goes, well, I need to do my duty. I have to return back up.
Yeah.
To
I
my
have
family.
people that like I really care about you, but I really care about these other people as well.
Yeah. And he's like, you know what? Give me a year. In 1 year, come to the sea where the sea meets the land, and I'll be there and we'll be together. And I went, great. She's going to make this wish. We're going to have like a quick epilogue and the book is going to be done. And I look at my phone, there's 40 minutes left.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
She makes this wish and she returns home. And she's back home. She's in front of her family's house.
I also thought that like where this was going of like she's gonna make this wish and it's vague of like everyone's gonna return to where they belong, and I just kind of thought like she was gonna stay in the spirit world.
Oh, that would have been cute.
of like I belong here now.
I belong here now. Yeah.
Like would it suck to be like, haha, I never get to see my family again until you die? Sure. But, like,
Yeah.
let's wrap this shit up. Come on.
Come on. But no, she returns back home with Chim Chung. Chim Chung also gets to go back.
Yeah.
Harry stays back with Shiki, I guess, because she's dead. And Nari is also dead, so she's there.
Yeah.
Chim Chung and
Mina.
Mina are both like within the 30-day limited warranty.
Yeah, they still have their human body.
Yeah, technically they're not spirits yet. So they return back. Shim Chung gets to be with June. And, Mina's back with her family and she's excited to tell them about her adventure. Everybody in her village assumes that Shim Chung was the one that saved everybody because she was meant to be the sea god's bride. And like from their point of view, it wasn't until after they sacrificed her that everything went fine. A year goes by and she's waiting by the sea for this dude. Oh, also the emperor came back. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Emperor's back, baby.
The emperor who's been dead for 100 years.
He's so back.
Shows up in a teenage body and nobody questions it. No one's like, you're con man, you freak. They're like, yeah, this guy looks exactly like the emperor when he was a teenager, which no one from that time should be alive. We just implicitly trust this rando is the emperor and now he gets to rule and peace has been established.
Hell yeah.
Everyone, even though 100 years have gone by, just accept his legitimacy and he lives in the palace now.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, a year goes by and she's waiting for Shin at the beach and all of her family is there ready to greet him and he doesn't show up. And then I throw myself into the sea. Like, what are you talking about? And I look at my phone and we have another 25 minutes left. What? The next day goes by, the next day goes by, the next day goes by. And at first she's angry. She's like, what the hell? And then she again makes the leap of logic of like his memories must have been erased.
Yeah, she's like, he didn't ever love me. Wait, no, that can't be true. His memories are gone.
What? You have your memories. Shim Chung has her memories.
I think it's just because it was like the emperor returned with no memories. And so she's just making this like assumption like, well, him and Shin were, intertwined for so long. So Shin probably doesn't remember anything.
Why don't they have their memories?
I don't know.
What? It's there because the book is pissing me off and it needs to piss me off more.
Also, once again, she knows the goddess of moon in memory. Pray to the goddess of moon in memory if this is your inkling and you're like so obsessed with him.
Oh my God. Okay, so yeah, so she goes back to the sea every single day. He's not there.
Day.
In the interim, life goes on. Her brother has a kid. Her family is like doing fine. And then the emperor decides to come visit their town.
Yeah. They're doing basically like a anniversary of like Shim Chung returning of like, oh, things are better now. So.
Everyone's like celebrating. Yippee. Woohoo.
Like,
Yahoo.
I'll come down for this, I guess.
Yeah. The emperor's like, we're going to come down and they're preparing and they're doing all this stuff. And then the day like the emperor is supposed to be there or whatever, her brother like comes in freaking out and he like can't get his words out because he's so hyped. And Shim Chung's like, come on, babe, just say it. Like, what's going on? He's like, the emperor's here. And they're like, yeah, we know. And he's like, no, in our house. The emperor's here at our house. And they're like, oh. So they all line up and the emperor is like slowly being introduced to the family. They get to Shim Chung and everyone's excited to talk about her. And he's like, no, not her. Like, ignore her. Mina.
What's her name?
What's her name? What's going on with her? We find out that the emperor, since returning, has been having dreams about his time in the spirit realm. Basically being like, I think I've been dreaming about you, and I think, you and I might be tied.
We should get married.
And then he proposes to her. They go for a walk. He's like, you and me, let's go for a walk. And on that walk, he's like, yeah, I've been dreaming about you, and I have a strong feeling that you are really important to me, so, like, I want to marry you. And I went, what the hell are you talking about?
I love her grandma in this moment because she's like, nah, my granddaughter's waiting on a god, not an emperor. Get the out.
Yeah, her grandma's an OG, a real one for sure. But also it felt like the author went, well, in the actual story, the emperor married her. So in this story, we have to have the emperor also wanting to marry her. I'm down with the emperor just being dead. It's been like 100 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't care. It could have just ended with her a year later meeting him by the beach.
We're all going to our rightful place. The emperor's been dead for 100 years. He can just stay in the spirit world.
Please. And I want you to do that. I want you to go back in time and do this for me.
No.
So the emperor, so she tells him, hey, can I have like a day to think about this? And it's the anniversary, right? So it's been 2 years now. And then the goddess of moon and memories shows up. And is like, hey, man, the sea god also lost his memories. Bless you. But he's been having dreams about you. So I just decided, because I'm tired of this To give his memories back?
Yeah, she's like, well, you made me care about people when you suggested I should actually take over and become.
Oh, right, because
the
she's doing real well.
Children and women and children, and he's just moping around all the time, and like he just keeps talking to me, and he's so sad, and I'm just sick of hearing it. So I gave him his memories back.
What? What are you talking? What? This is your reasoning? Eventually,
Sure.
you're like, well, it's been like 2 years of him whining. So
Immediately do it then.
why didn't you just give him his memories back?
What's the downside?
I get that gods are fickle or whatever, but that doesn't make sense in this context. So yeah,
not a lick.
so he gets his memories back, and then they're on a cliff for this festival, I believe.
Yeah, it's like the emperor's up on the cliff for some reason, and she goes to meet him.
They're all like kind of in that area for it because her family's also there too.
Yeah,
and then she goes up to the cliff to like give him his answer.
Yeah,
and you were the one who kind of corrected me on this, but like I believe because the sea god Shin got his memories back, the emperor also gets his memories back, because the way I read it was her just being like, the reason that you remember me from your dreams is because you and I had an adventure in the spirit realm and you remember it. And he goes, yeah, I do remember it. I was like, oh, that's all it took just to say like, here are your memories, go. And also him not having his memories don't do anything but drag this story out way longer than it should.
Yeah.
Helix.
Oh no.
You know you're not supposed to lick your paws. So yeah, the emperor has his memories now. And then the sea god, the dragon, shows up on this cliff.
The sea god does not arrive by sea. He arrives by air. He flies in.
God, dude. Yeah, he flies in on this dragon, and he's like, babe, I remember you.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go, Sade.
And the emperor's like, no, dude.
That's mine.
That's my
and we're
girl.
Back to the same place we were about 100 pages ago. Of them fighting over Mina for some reason.
And like you said, 100 pages ago, we could have ended this book of like her picking one
and
person.
I wish we did. And I wish we did.
Right. Or even her realizing like 100 pages ago, it should have just been her going, that dragon is your soul. And so I'm just going to tell you the answer to that question now. She makes the decision, I want to be with Shen. And we were all shocked.
And for some reason, she's just like, but hey, Emperor, I need you to tell me you don't want me instead.
Yeah, why?
I don't know.
Anyway, so she goes with Shin, and then she's like, here's my family. And they all say hi. And then she goes off with stuff.
And then I chugged a beer.
Really?
No, I wish.
I wish. And then I downed my wine. After this, the novel ended, I got up and I was pacing the room really angrily. Books don't piss me off that much.
I was just elated because I'm like, finally, I can stop reading this.
This was really a difficult novel. And as we're going through it, I planned on going into this review a little bit more calm and thoughtful about it, because I didn't want to go so hard on this author, especially because a lot of people really loved it. Like the reviews for this book were really, really high.
Yeah.
But then as we're discussing this novel, I'm like, what is happening here?
There's just too many plot holes. I'm sorry. Here's the thing is, if you wrapped up even half of these, I could have maybe forgiven it. But I'm like, every single time, there's just so many inconsistencies. There's so many things that I'm like, why? Or this was way harder than it had to be. I don't understand.
And it felt, as we're talking about this now, I don't want to say weirdly misogynistic, because it's supposed to be a feminist retelling. But I think we had talked about this way earlier when I said, hey, how do you feel about that theme of childbirth and how it connects to the story? And it's almost like the fact that she was so disappointed in how gods handled that was emblematic of her overall feelings about the gods.
Yeah.
And that felt so unnecessary because you already have the sea god who was letting you down.
Yeah.
It should have just been look at how you ravage the world, look at how little you care about humans and focused on that. But instead we have to bring in an external goddess specifically and be like, no, instead it's these two female goddesses who are constantly disappointing me because my love interest cannot be also the focus of my ire. It's how I feel about it now.
Yeah.
And the hyper focus on her niece's death does not connect into a larger theme of anything besides like, well, if you tell a god to do better, they, I guess, will.
Or just like, I don't know, let's have a moment of just be like, yeah, you know, sometimes we all make these desperate wishes and they're just not going to come true because there's so many people making desperate wishes.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
some sort of like, yes, this really, really sucks. And yes, I was really, really upset, but now I'm recognizing that like even the gods have their limits or whatever.
Anything of that nature.
Or it could have been tied into like, I'm recognizing now like the gods have their limits because of humans, because we are doing these bad things, because whatever. And like recognizing that like, oh, hey, as much as I'm upset with them, like the gods, like it's also partially on us for why things are like this.
And not to tie it into our current political climate, but it's almost like if you believe in God but you deny science, do you really believe that there is a God? Like in terms of this, of like the goddess of childbirth or like women and children, even though in this is she's a villain, she could have just been like, I gave you like practices to like help women.
Yeah.
Like I gave you medical ways and I you know, like I was able to like imbue and teach the, you know, your humanity, these things. And the fact that you don't use them is not my fault. Like there's only so much I can do.
Or like, where are the lines between gods, right? Because it's like, okay, I am the goddess of women and children. I bless that woman with a child. I am not that she then died. I have no power over that then.
That's a different god's
like,
realm.
Yeah.
Also so weird that this moon goddess can just jump in and be like, well, I'm going to take over this divinity. We don't get any info on that because I don't want another like 400 pages of this.
Yeah.
But like it truly is like, well, I took your advice and I started answering the prayers of people who are women and children. And now I do that too. And I'm also the moon goddess and I'm also the goddess of memory.
Yeah.
Okay.
My assumption was like, oh, if you usurp like another god or goddess, like you gain more power, but for your domain specifically, not like you gain theirs as well. I don't know.
Yeah. And again, we don't have to get into the super nitty gritty of it, but there has to be something that is like tethering all these concepts together.
Right.
So yeah, it's like, okay, now we have the sea god back and the storms are done. Was that the only ramification of a sea god being under a curse?
Well, now because the emperor is back, then the war and the strife is also lessened for some reason, because like I think the implication was just like, well, our previous ruler wasn't strong enough to like keep all these other like kind of smaller rulers within his like domain, like you know, whatever, acting right. Yeah. And now because we have the emperor back, it's better. But it's like, it didn't have to be the emperor then. Just get another dude that's better at ruling than the
one guy 100 years ago is
that good.
The solution.
Who's a 16-year-old boy.
Also, yeah, her understanding of like gods and the spirit realm have not changed the way that her village or even her own family go about operating their life. Not even like the gods are real. It's more just like they are real, but there's only so much we can do. We need to take like, you know, decisions into our own hands or whatever.
No. If anything, it was like this book was built on blind faith and it ended on blind faith.
Nobody has a character arc.
No.
Mina starts extraordinarily faithful and self-sacrificing, and she ends it being faithful and self-sacrificing.
I guess the one argument could be like, actually, no.
Shin gets his memories. He doesn't change.
Well, I was just like, oh, well, like Mina is like, you know, selfless and self-sacrificing, but then she decides to like, you know, do the thing that's right for her and leave her family and go with Shin, and like that could be considered a like selfish decision. But if that were the case, I would have rather it been like when she wished for everything to go back of like where everything belonged. I wish it was just more so like I stayed with Shin, and then like Shim Chong's back up there, and she could be like, yeah, Mina's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
a better story arc here is an unpious person who truly just thinks she's killing herself, but she's doing it for her brother. And the reason she does that is not because she has faith in the gods. She's truly just like, I don't have faith in them. I don't think they're going to be there for us. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect my family. And if that means sacrificing myself.
Yeah.
And then she gets down there and it ends with her having faith in these gods and vice versa.
Yeah.
What a story there. But like, she's the same character from start to finish.
Mm-hmm. And almost every single character is.
Shin doesn't have an arc.
Like
the Emperor doesn't really have an arc, I guess.
No.
He's barely a character. Namgi and Kieran are...
No.
I guess Kieran starts not liking a stranger, and then he becomes friends with that stranger.
That's what I'm saying is like, if there are any arcs, like they're so minimal. It's the same thing with like the goddess of moon and memory. It's like, oh, she's not completely terrible anymore, I guess. But she never was from the start, because she's still like, even in this, like where she like, you know, was
Should
trying
stab
to,
her in the back.
she like helps Mina as a child get out of the woods. Like, so she still had moments of being good.
Yeah.
And like, it still seems like she's like, yeah, I'm not completely like good or whatever. Or like, well, I don't know, dude.
I guess this was just like a turn your brain off novel, but we talked about this a
don't
little
ask
bit.
too many questions.
Don't ask too many questions. Because for me, a turn your brain off novel is a novel in which you as an author have proven to me that everything is going to be succinct, and I can kind of be like, oh yeah, I trust that this worked out. But a novel like this is, I can't turn my brain off because I keep being like, but what? Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
And then it gets switched back on. And I go, what the hell? Like, this is not enjoyable.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm trying to understand what I just read. Like,
yeah, I'm sure if you're a vibes only reader, this is for you.
Maybe.
And I want to give the caveat of, you know, Axie Oh wrote a book. And that is
Say one nice thing about the book.
yeah, exactly. One nice thing. Well, one, I love the cover. And that is not on the author.
And I loved that Namgi hit on her great great grandmother.
Bisexual King Namgi.
Yeah.
It is hilarious that as we're waiting to like think about nice things to say, crickets are going on in the background.
Anyway,
yeah, that's
our
no. I can think of something. I think that I like Chim Chung.
Did you? I didn't really care.
I don't think there was enough substance there, which allowed me to put more onto her than maybe was intended.
I kind of okay. So I think another hey, I know we're trying to say nice things, but another qualm I had is just everyone outside of like the gods and goddesses were just way too altruistic. Like I kind of was thinking like Shim Chung, when she was sacrificed, I wanted her to be pissed.
Yeah,
like I wanted her to be like, I don't know, like just like I thought the twist was gonna be like I didn't love June or something. And I didn't want that specifically,
yeah.
But I did want one she was like eventually like, you know, sacrificed of just like almost being like, I have someone that loves me up there and you like don't have a romantic connection up there. Like, why the am I down here? Like,
right.
Give me anything. Like everyone was just so like Mina was so good, Hieri was so good, Nari was so good, Shim Chung was so good. Like I'm not saying make all these horrible characters, but give them any amount of character flaw.
Right. What a fun twist for Shim Chung to be angry and not necessarily vengeful, but vengeful, you know? Like,
yeah,
this girl being like, I thought I escaped my fate the way, like,
yeah. Why haven't you done anything so that this didn't happen
right,
to me?
Mina is taking this as like, I get to decide my fate and I want to be the Sea God's bride. And Shim Chung is like, I thought I got to escape my fate and I didn't.
Yeah.
And now I'm angry about that.
Yeah.
It's like they're both, again, having inverse sort of stories. If Shim Chung isn't our main character based on this folktale, then I want there to be a relevant reason that Shim Chung even exists in the story. Like the author's like, well, wouldn't it be a cool twist instead of the main character, instead of Belle, it's some random girl in the background? Wow, how cool. And then you still have Belle do the exact same thing of get captured in this palace and like be, you know, the beast. What are we doing here? Like there should have been a reason that Shim Chung gets thrown back into the story instead of just being up there.
Yeah.
And
we
she
forgot
does
about the best line of the book.
No.
You're the true Sea God's bride.
I knew you were gonna say
You're
this.
the true Sea God's bride. Why?
Shim Chung and her have like a final goodbye before she like leaves to go with Shin. And in it, Shim Chung is like, thank you so much for doing that for me. Like that's you changing my life forever and incredible. And just giving like Mina her praises because yeah, she was the heroine. She saved the day. And Mina's like, no, I'll always know forever that you were actually the Sea God's true bride. And I went, what the hell are you talking about?
If you didn't hesitate, I would have never thrown myself in the water.
And that makes you the Sea God's bride?
You not wanting to be the Sea God's bride makes you the Sea God's
like
bride.
You can say, hey, it was incredible. That act of hesitation was bravery. Like,
Yes.
don't diminish.
You were also denying your fate in that moment.
Yeah, you did what I did, or anything like that. But to say, like, actually, you were the true Sea God's bride is me, like, coming up with the cure for cancer and somebody, like, having given me a cup of coffee one time and being like, actually, you came up with the cure for cancer. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
just because it's like the butterfly effect.
Yes.
Yeah, that was stupid to me. And it felt like a little wink of, like, you're actually, like, the real hero here because it's actually your story, but it's not.
No.
It's not Shim Chung's
She was
story.
barely in the story.
And she shouldn't have been any more than she was. Like,
Yeah.
oh, God, she should not have shown up partway through. She
Yep.
shows up. Mina's like, oh, my God, what are you doing here? Anyways, I gotta go. And then later they have tea together.
Yeah.
I think she gives her a dress. And now she's her sister-in-law. And
Cool. Really great book. Really glad we read it.
so good.
I can't wait for us to have like a 1 star, half a star book, and just like we went this hard on a 2.5. So
Yeah. So, anyways, we are gonna do Bride by Allie Hazelwood, and that one is a book that we have already read for our personal book club, like we had talked about in that first episode. The Open Hearts Book Club is something that we've been doing for a couple of years now, and we read Bride by Allie Hazelwood in that one, and so it's our pick for next month. We're gonna reread that, but I have a lot of strong thoughts about it.
and we'll get into it.
We'll get
But yeah,
into it,
so that'll
yeah.
be our October book club pick is Bride by Allie Hazelwood. We'll also have an additional episode coming out next month in October that will read Vampires of Alnotra as well. So it's going to be a little vampire themed October month for
Our
spooky
Patreon
season.
episode.
Our Patreon episode is us going to be talking about Twilight. So if you're into vampires, you got a lot to look forward to.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, we will. In the meantime, if you want to hit us up on any of our socials, you can listen to our episodes on YouTube. You can listen to them on Spotify. We also are on Instagram. We're on TikTok. Easy way to access all of our things is to go to our Instagram. We have a link tree there that links to all the various places you can find us. You can go to our Patreon. We are going to do our Patreon episode for how we decorated the space, as we mentioned. So you can look forward to that. You will have to pay for that episode, just a fair warning.
Yeah. But what you don't have to pay for is our Discord.
Yes.
And that's why we call this a book club. So we invite you to join our Discord. You just have to be a member of our Patreon, but you don't have to pay any money. And on it, you can discuss the book with us throughout the month. That's the book club part of Open Hearts Book Club. Sorry, I mean, this book got me going. Please continue. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that wraps us up.
yeah.
Yeah, we will see you guys next time to talk about Bride by Allie Hazelwood.
All right. See you guys then.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.